This is Atomic Shinobi, and today I'm going to narrate second and final part of What If Naruto travel back in time after losing everything in war. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Dynamic marking. The Naruto clones were covered in a fluid that Akamaru had expelled. Gah! What the hell is this stuff? The clones all gave a disgusted grimace upon hearing this. His dog swiftly changed into another Kiba, and they launched their swirling attack. None of you can escape us now. Akamaru has you marked with a scent that we can find anywhere, he said, fang over fang. As the pile drivers closed in on the innumerable clones, Naruto's were being defeated one by one. The other Kiba came from behind and smashed him between them after one of them attempted to grasp the front of the Kiba drill and cling to it by encircling it with his arms and legs. Kiba and Akamaru skidded to a stop after their initial attack was over and a third of the clones were defeated. Not a bad first attack, was it, Naruto? Not bad, but nowhere near good enough to beat me. I can just make more clones. Both Kiba and Akamaru burst into a massive cloud of smoke, exclaiming, if that's how you want to play it, then I'll wipe you all out before you get a chance. Combination transformation. A huge two-headed wolf emerged when it cleared. This fight ends here. Fang Wolf Fang. The two-headed beast began to spin so fast that they were encircled by a huge blue vortex. Say goodbye. Clones were left frantically trying to move aside, but it didn't help them. Kiba was able to track and defeat the majority of the clones with ease thanks to the unrelenting attack and dynamic marking. The last trio of clones was the target of the Kiba-Akamaru combination's final approach. This is the end, for you. With the assistance of the other two, the clone in the center created a huge Rasengan. To counter Kiba's rotation, the clones gave it the opposite spin, making the attack wider than his. Kiba's rotation came to a sudden stop as the two violently rotating strikes collided as Naruto continued to advance with his Rasengan. The wolf beast was forced to turn around and was flung back into the trees, and now separated Kiba and Akamaru emerged from the wreckage as the dust settled. A visibly lightheaded Kiba fell to the ground in front of Naruto and fainted, saying, I thought we had UT there. Beside him, his faithful companion curled up and whimpered. Hinata attempted to sidestep the query. What do you mean, Naruto? I'll like everyone. Naruto approached the impoverished girl's face and met her eyes. You know what I mean, Hinata. I mean, who do you like? Hinata would have done so immediately if embarrassment could cause death. It was a miracle that the girl had not fainted yet. It's an secret. Naruto hesitated for a second. Why does everyone in the village know about it if it's a secret? He grinned at the thought and went on. That's the whole point in this game. You have to answer the question. No secrets. Hinata was wildly circling each other with her thumbs. Tomatoes would be jealous of her face. Her speech was incredibly quiet and stuttering. There is this 1P person. And who would that be? Naruto asked with a smile that was so big it could split his cheeks. He's an N ninja IIR respect a lot. Naruto's face was inches from Hinata's, and he said, go on. Why? Yo. Hinata's voice was shaking, making it difficult for her to speak. In order to get it out quickly, she inhaled deeply and tried again, speaking much louder than before. I like yo. And before she could say another word, her mouth was shut. No words could escape Naruto's lips as they locked against hers. After holding the kiss for a few seconds, he withdrew. I like you too, Hinata. The joy at his confession, the shock of the kiss, the humiliation of his question, and the happiness of Naruto accepting the picnic. The Hyuga quickly passed out because it was much more than she could handle. Hinata. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you pass out, Hinata. With a sigh, the blonde picked up the girl and took a seat with his back to the tree. Leaning her against his chest, he placed her beside him. We might be here a while. Naruto was slammed into the ground after Neji wrestled him off his back. The clone was surprisingly unaffected by the impact. Neji charged in with a strong Juken blow. Neji's palm smashed the first Naruto's ribs in, causing him to pop out of existence. Naruto was able to form his seal and had two more clones replace him. Hyuga of the branch family was writhing with fury because Naruto's small prank had left his hair ruffled with blinding speed. He pushed Naruto's back while unleashing a torrent of attacks. One clone grabbed the other and used it as a sacrifice. When the Uzumaki had his heels to the side of the dojo and had nowhere else to flee like a club, he swung him at Neji. The poor clone could only scream, "Ah! Why me?" before Neji's hand snapped his neck back when he died. Neji, you could kill the real me with a strike like that. But you are not the original, so I have no need to hold back. Naruto pulled a face. You really are cold as ice, aren't you? Neji rushed forward to stop the final clone. Without responding, water whips emerged and ensnared the Hyuga before Naruto's palms could make contact with the ground sliding behind him. Naruto got ready to kick him in the back. "This won't hold me, Naruto." Kaden. As the water bondage broke, Naruto was pushed back by the swirling vortex. To protect himself from colliding with anything, Naruto called forth a few clones. The 3 new clones joined hands. 2 of them, the first one kept his hold while throwing the second one forward. He then drew the first Naruto forward as the second's feet made contact with the floor. They quickly accelerated and turned into a swift wheel. The attack had the intended effect, but it could only be described as unconventional. Neji's shoulders were about to be struck by the second clone's feet, but the Hyuga caught both of their ankles before the kicks could reach them. But with the sustained momentum, the first clone swung over the second's head and its feet slammed into Neji's back. The Hyuga let go of the second clone's ankles and staggered forward. While Naruto rolled forward, he continued rolling forward, sliding his arms under his opponent's armpits from behind and over Neji's head. After being hauled off his feet, Neji's front end was slammed into the ground. "Sorry about that, Neji, that looked like it kinda hurt." Neji pushed himself off the ground and to his knees, his arms shaking. "This is not over, Naruto." It ended when the Hyuga slammed his elbow back into Naruto, whose hand slammed him into the ground. The other clone from the 2-man cartwheel attack was then knocked down by his sweeping kick. Neji's knee had already crushed into its stomach before it hit the ground. Neji found himself facing the final 2 clones as the 2 smoke clouds dissipated. Double vacuum palm. With tremendous pressure, Neji's palms sprang forward, sending waves of force into the remaining Narutos. Both of them were dispensed. Neji glanced at Hiyashi with a cunning smile. If you exclude the man's slowly clapping hands, his face was stone and he was motionless. The man was thrilled that his nephew had won. To put it another way, no. What were my clones thinking? Neji is never going to let me live that one down, even if the real me was not doing the fighting. Hinata woke up from her hazy-induced slumber. Naruto stopped yelling and ran his hand through the girl's hair gently so as not to wake the quiet girl. After the disruption, Naruto could sense Hinata's breathing returning to its regular, slow rhythm. Strangely enough, their breathing synchronized and their chests would rise and fall in unison as Naruto also relaxed. Naruto noticed a smile on the lovely sleeping Hyuga's lips. As he looked down, he put his arms around the girl's waist and held her close as his own smile overcame the scene. Naruto sensed a slight decline in his own vitality. Since I discovered how to connect our chakras and they can access mine at any time, my clones must be battling fiercely because they have really begun to enjoy going a bit too far. I'll quickly run out of chakra if they continue this way. Every time their fists collided, the ground beneath them crumbled away into a small crater, and the surrounding area was rapidly being reduced to rubble. Lee sent a flying kick to Naruto's head, which the blonde immediately ducked under, and then lurched up, sending his fist up into Lee's low back. The guy doppelganger tumbled head over heels across the ground and into the river. The Sage Mode Naruto clone used his aura of natural chakra to extend his blows, and Lee's waves of force were created by the intensity of his attacks. "It seems that in my current condition, my youth cannot match yours. I have to go further." Lee looked at Guy-sensei, who nodded for him to continue. 5th gate. Gate of closing, available. Lee was surrounded by water that violently separated into a sphere before he vanished into little more than a blur. His speed forced Naruto's reflexes to push him farther than the blonde would have believed possible with his Sage Mode activated, and as soon as he blocked a kick, Lee would vanish and strike from behind. Despite this, Naruto was still far from his limits, as the spandex ninja launched a leaf hurricane into him. Pushing him back, Naruto grabbed onto the leaf before the final kick could land, pulling him in hard, and then he drove his fist into Lee's face, knocking him back. The fight should have ended after the crushing blow, but it was far from over. Lee regained his strength and expanded his position once more. 6th gate, Gate of Joy, available. Naruto's eyes deceived him, as Lee was too fast to be seen. He was forced to use his other senses to keep track of the lightning fast ninja. Lee landed a flurry of punches all over Naruto. The strikes happened so fast that flames were released on impact, causing massive damage. Naruto had to abandon his defense and go on an all-out attack to stop the onslaught. Naruto made 2 shadow clones and formed a Rasen Shuriken. Lee was much too fast to land a direct hit on him if the attack was to be hurled at him. Naruto instead waited for Lee to approach for another attack, and then he threw the Rasen Shuriken right at the ground in front of him. Naruto immediately teleported away before what came next. The resulting explosion annihilated the surrounding area, and Lee was not able to clear the blast radius. He was repulsed back so hard that the shockwave itself was like one unfathomably strong punch. Few shinobi have a body capable of withstanding such a devastating attack. Lee was one of those few. With incredible effort he managed to rise to his feet. Lee steadied himself as Naruto came in to land the finishing blow. Guy's voice provided Lee with what he needed. You may defeat your opponent by any means necessary for the sake of this young conflict. For the last time, Lee spread his legs. Seventh gate, Gate of Shock, available. Naruto was pushed back by the burst of energy from Lee's body, and when he looked up from his braced stance, he saw that his opponent's body was glowing green. Sweet. He is pushing this much further than I anticipated. Naruto. This ends here. Lee nearly warped behind Naruto. He was moving so fast now that his strike would be facing away from the village. Lee held a palm in front of his face, forming a fist with his other hand. Lee punched forward, creating a massive amount of air pressure. Harudora. The daytime tiger charged ahead, compressing even more as it approached its objective. As Naruto's body erupted into the aura of the nine tail, all 9 chakra tails wrapped around his body in a protective shield, and he exclaimed, "Ah, boss is gonna kill me for this." Nothing happened for a second, and then everything happened. An inexplicable shockwave erupted, and it was so powerful that compressed air sprang out in all directions, hitting everything within miles, including the entire village of Konoha. When the blast finally stopped, all the trees in the immediate area were destroyed. Guy had just pulled the top half of his body out of a pile of dirt when he saw his own eternal rival standing beside him. Well, I would have assumed it was an enemy attack on the village when I first felt the shock of this battle. It's just you. It turns out. He took out his book and turned to leave. Kakashi. Why must you always be so cool? Besides, that wasn't even me, Guy said, brushing himself clean before smiling at the silver-haired Jonin who had now turned around. Our students were that. When he saw Lee, still sweating green, Kakashi's mask could not conceal his jaw-dropping shock, but what he saw next caused his entire body to tremble in shock, and his visible eye opened wider than it had ever been before. Naruto was only just withdrawing the aura into his body after using it to protect himself. Kakashi gazed in disbelief at the empty crater that used to be Training Ground 3. I'm so mad at you, Naruto. I believed I had you present. Your youthful flames are, I must say, brighter than mine. Lee passed out and looked ahead. Before the unconscious form hit the floor, Guy grabbed his lookalike's body. Kakashi went up to the blonde and said, Naruto? What was the chakra field surrounding your body? The clone fidgeted quickly before grinning at his sensei when he had an idea. You'll have to ask boss. The clone then used a kunai to defeat itself. When the amazing winds swept across the area where Naruto and Hinata were, Hinata woke up due to the force of the wind blowing over them. Ah. Why do all my clones have to be so stupid? I won't have a secret much longer if I have to keep telling people what's going on. Naruto thought as the clone that was fighting Lee was defeated, new memories washing over him. Naruto. What was that? That was my fight with bushy brows coming to an end. The effects of that battle were felt all the way over here? Yeah, I guess we kinda overdid it. Hinata started to ask more, but she froze when she remembered what had happened just a moment before. How are you, Hinata? Now that she realized she was leaning against Naruto with his arms wrapped around her, she realized that her body was burning hotter than lava and that her blush was so bright that it was comparable to the sun. The girl had to push herself not to faint again, so she looked up and walked away to see Naruto's face. Naru-en. She was unable to talk. Holding the girl closer, the blonde said, Hinata. You have nothing to be ashamed of, just as you feel the same way about me, so do I, perhaps even more so. Why, you do? I certainly do. Leaning into Naruto as much as she could, the Hyuga pulled her knees up to her chest. After sitting there for a while, Hinata finally said, Are you okay with Jay just sitting here with Emmy? Hinata, I would do anything with you. Even though she was aware that he had said that innocuously, her thoughts continued to wander, and the thought of it sent her into another fainting state. No, never again. I apologize, Hinata. Did I say something? Naruto exhaled an exasperated breath. Alright Sasuke, my boy, that is enough training for one day. But I haven't gotten this down yet, Fukasaku-sensei. This will take much longer than you anticipate, so don't be a fool. Senjutsu can take years to master. Years? I have no years. Calm down. My boy, you will learn it far more quickly if you dedicate your entire day to it every day. Simply put, you cannot expect to run before you are able to walk. In your opinion, what is Naruto doing if running is regarded as mastering this senjutsu stuff? After giving this some thought, Fukasaku said, Well, I'd say he's in an all-out sprint. I'm never going to catch him at this rate, Sasuke said, hanging his head for a moment. Having your Sharingan is a blessing. You may be able to capture Naruto once you master Sage Mode with the help of your eyes. I will catch you, Naruto. Sasuke felt more confident after he realized that his eyes could help balance the power difference between him and the blonde, something the Uchiha had not considered. By this point, the sun had begun to set, and Hinata was still awake. Whatever she was dreaming about must have been pleasant, because the girl smiled softly and held Naruto close to her. It's getting late, I guess I should get you back to your house. He picked the girl up bridal style and started the long walk to the Hyuga compound, enjoying every moment of it, especially when he caught a glimpse of the lovely girl sleeping soundly in his arms. Naruto's cheeks began to warm up when onlookers noticed them and exclaimed, "Ah!" The stroll to the Hyuga compound went by too fast for Naruto's liking, and as he got closer to the main house, the front door swung open before he could get there. "Thank you for returning my daughter," said Hiyashi, who appeared unconcerned by her condition as he stepped out onto the porch and gazed at his unconscious daughter. "She told me she was going to lunch with you today. I hope you took good care of her and made sure she enjoyed herself." The Hyuga clan's leader was treating him with such civility that Naruto was taken aback and nodded. "That is good. If you will follow me, I will show you where you may lay her down." Naruto turned to Hiyashi, who led him into another room with a small table with a cushion on either side, a pot, and 2 teacups on it. Hiyashi led Naruto to Hinata's room and motioned for him to place her on the bed, which he did as gently as possible. "Please take a seat, Naruto. I would like to talk to you over tea." A maid rushed into the room, poured them both tea, and left as swiftly as she had arrived, although he was a little uneasy as he sat down, and the tone Hiyashi was using did not portend anything negative for the boy. "My daughter has shown a lot of interest in you," Hiyashi said after taking a long sip of his tea when they were by themselves. "I think you reciprocate that interest, am I right?" Naruto just nodded because he didn't believe what he was saying. "I made this assumption. I have to ask you now. What do you intend to do with my daughter?" "I want her to be happy," Naruto said, surprisingly calmly. Despite the butterflies in his stomach, "She has always cared about me and had faith in me. I want to give her the same treatment. I just want to make sure I do this correctly because I value her so much. I would stop at nothing to keep her safe." His response pleased Hiyashi, who displayed it with a slight smile. "Your words make me feel good about letting you spend time with my daughter." Then his eyes, which are always serious, grew more somber. "But is my daughter in any danger that you specify that you will protect her from? It's good to know that you put Hinata before yourself." A strong memory returned to Naruto, and his face went white. Flashback. The floodgates had opened, and Naruto held the dying girl in his arms, feeling her body grow cold, and there was no point in trying to contain his tears. "Hinata," he said, his voice too weak and choked up to scream "P. Don't abandon me. Please, I've lost a lot of people already. I can't let you go either. Hinata, I adore you." The girl's smile was feeble. She had spent her entire life hoping to hear those words, and now that she had, all she wanted was to live to be with him, but the 10 tails claw's open hole in the middle of her body would not allow it, and she would perish. After coughing up a lot of blood, Hinata finally said, "I love you to Naruto. Thank you for telling me." She said, "My time with you is over, but I wish I could stay. Thanks to you. I can pass with a smile. Farewell, my Naruto." The delicate form in his arms went limp, and Naruto turned pale and stone still. Death and destruction were all around him, and the few shinobi who were still alive were barely hanging on Obito, the 10 tails, and Naruto were the only true pallors left. "Naruto, I told you to accompany me and put an end to this. I predicted that your friends would perish. Your last friend has fallen. So look around you now, Naruto. If you had paid attention to me, none of this would have occurred." The Uchiha stepped back at what he saw when Naruto looked up from the Hyuga and directly into Obito's eyes. It was a look he had never really seen before. It was filled with pure will, the will of all the people he was fighting for, the will of every fallen ninja, and the will to put an end to this. Naruto's body exploded in a new power that Obito had never seen before. The energy seemed almost limitless. "It's over now." Final flashback. "Naruto, I asked you what there was to protect my daughter from." "I would protect her and the entire village from anything," the blonde said, his eyes burning with fire as his mind returned to him. "Even if it means losing my own life, I promise to keep my word. I'm a ninja, so I always follow through on my commitments. I'm happy to see that you've set priorities. Thank you for your time, Naruto." Hiyashi pointed to the exit before getting up and heading to his own room. "That boy is something incredible. I am happy my daughter can be with someone like him." His thoughts then strayed to Neji's battle with his clones earlier that day, and how one of them had rubbed his fist into his nephew's head. Although he is still rough around the edges, Hiyashi laughed, but since he was alone in his room, no one would know. It had been a good day, but Naruto was ready for it to end. He walked back to his home, but it could not come soon enough. Naruto was exhausted from all the chakra his clones had used that day, and as soon as he left the Hyuga compound, the fatigue hit him like a brick. Once he reached his floor, he opened his door, but he had forgotten to lock it once again. "You're Naruto. There, I've been anticipating your arrival." Kakashi was sitting on his couch when Naruto opened his half-closed eyes, and the blonde waved at him before beginning to drag himself to his bedroom. "In what way does that honor your sensei, Naruto?" "I apologize, I simply need to go to bed because I'm exhausted." "Oh, is that correct? I really wanted to talk to you about the aura surrounding your clone that was engaged in combat with Lee, the one with the fire-like glow and the 9 chakra limbs that resemble tails." Now that he was awake, Naruto told Kakashi to speak with him about his clone throwing him under the bus, something he had almost forgotten. What do you want to know about it?" "Not nearly as much as you think. I already know you're from the future. I know it was bad enough for you to come back to change things. Tailed beast or no tailed beast, your power was too great to be explained by simple training and growth. You had an unnatural blackout in the land of waves. Sakura told me about another you had in the second stage of the Chunin exams. Lastly, I have reason to believe it happened again when you and the third Hokage fought Orochimaru. I felt your power one night when I was training with Sasuke, and I know it would be more than enough to crush Orochimaru, which means you would never have let the Hokage die, that is, unless certain circumstances inhibited you. After seeing your clone, I came to realize you had full control over the 9 tails chakra. What I want to know is why you were trying to hide this from me." "The answer is actually a lot simpler than you think, Kakashi-sensei. If I came back in time and flaunted my power around and crushed my enemies, do you think my life would play out the same? Do you think my friends would view me as someone truly important to them? Or do you think that they would have a certain reverence for me and treat me more like a superior?" "I see, so this is about them. You really care about this village and its people, don't you?" "Yes, and I want to earn their love as well. I don't want to be a god to them. I want to be their friends. I need them to be my friends. I don't know what happened to you in the future, but I could see something different about you from our first day. I guess the first day I meet you actually. I was able to see you have a strong heart. Our village needs shinobi like you. I am proud that we have one Naruto Uzumaki to protect us. I leave these matters in your capable hands." Kakashi walked away. "Wait, Kakashi-sensei." "Yes, Naruto?" "Jiraiya-sensei is gathering information on a new enemy. There is a storm coming, and I don't know when it will hit, but when it does, I won't be able to do this alone," Kakashi said, "and in that time, we will all be here for you." He left, shutting the door behind him. The sun was shining directly into Naruto's eyes through the window of his bedroom. Waking him up to get away from the light, he turned on his other side. 5 more minutes. Kakashi-sensei, in the shape of an alarm clock, Kakashi-sensei turned down his request with a loud ring. The ringing was short-lived. The clock was smashed into the bedside table by Naruto's fist, leaving behind only pieces of gears and springs. The blonde dragged himself into the kitchen from his bed. You would have assumed he was a completely different person with boundless energy after just 1 cup of instant ramen. This is it, it's time for Gaara beat his hate. He left without bothering to use his door. With the wind blowing through his hair and the surge in his legs, Naruto desired to feel alive. He then flew to the rooftops. After opening his window, he maintained a pace that was just quick enough to shake his hair, but not so quick as to disturb his peaceful energy. He was going to help one of his best friends overcome their greatest adversity on this particular day in no time. The blonde was outside Gaara's room. He was already met by the Sand Ninja. "You ready, Gaara?" "I have been ready since my birth." Although that wasn't entirely accurate, Naruto was grateful for the zeal. After taking his friend's hand, Naruto disappeared. They were standing in front of a waterfall with a pool surrounding it. A moment later, in the middle of the pool was a tiny island the size of a person. "This is the waterfall of truth. You must complete this step on your own. Sit on that island, close your eyes, and concentrate. When you do, the waterfall will reflect your true self. You will have to deal with what you find." "What will my true self be like?" Naruto smiled and gave him the thumbs up. "There's only one way to find out." Gaara hesitated a little before leaping to the middle of the island and taking a seat. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and went into a meditative state. A voice then emerged from the waterfall in front of him. "Why are you here?" Gaara's eyes opened. A figure emerged from behind the cascading water. "Don't you know what he is trying to do to us?" "Who are you? What do you mean?" From behind the liquid wall came the figure. He had red hair. A white sash encircled his left hip and passed over his right shoulder. He had a gourd on his back that was secured with a leather strap that crossed over the white sash under his black shirt. The sleeves of a mesh covering stuck out. His eyes themselves were blood, and there was thick black liner around them. In terms of both hue and uniformity, horrible tears of the fluid poured over his face from them. "Why do you let him hurt us?" Gaara was clearly shaken by what he was seeing. "Who are you? Let who hurt us?" Blood dripped from his chin into the pool of water behind him, and the tears cascaded down its face after striking the water. The blood droplets dispersed into pale red clouds. Don't you know who I am? I'm Ugaara. I have always been you. I'm the only one who cares about what happens to you. Why do you forsake me, and fall prey to that fool of an Uzumaki? Gaara reclined a little from his chair and used one arm to brace himself. What do you mean fall prey to him? I'm your true self, Gaara. You know exactly what I mean by that. He lies through his teeth to you. Naruto is different. The blood-stained Gaara collapsed to his knees, saying, no he isn't. You want to believe that, I know you do, but he is lying to you. He will hurt us again, just like all the villagers always have. Don't you understand that he only wants our pain? Can you not see through his deception? He tells us things of the future, of a loving village. Even of us becoming Case Cage, his silver tongue has brought us false hope, and he will use it to crush us. No one has ever loved us. That's not true. Even if most of what he says is in our future, the care from our siblings is in the present. More lies. Everything you speak of has only one source, his words, and nothing more. I believe his words, and I'm going to act on them. I don't want to be alone anymore. I won't let you hurt us. Sand erupted from the Gaara's eyes, which now formed a huge red puddle. Gaara's last line of defense was smashed by the sand. The sand ninja threw sand balls back at his real self while extending his hand. Its own sand shield brushed aside the attack. You can't beat me. I am you, Gaara. Can't you see I'm trying to help us? We have been alone our whole lives. No one will ever care for us. If you follow Naruto, we will only suffer more. Gaara formed an arm of sand and smashed it over his gory-looking self, saying, I told you he is not like that. How would you know? How is he to be any different than Yoshimaru? Our own uncle faked his love for us, and then tried to kill us. Do you remember how that crushed our hair? We let ourselves believe that someone could actually care for a monster like us. We let him get close to us, care for us, and fool us. This has brought nothing but pain. Uncle was only following father's orders. And what does that say about our dear father? He put this demon in us, and the village hated us for it. They wanted us dead because of it. Father was all too happy to oblige their will. That's not what happened. Father was just trying to protect the village. It was the hardest thing he ever had to do. He could not risk the Shukaku killing them. The Shukaku is the only reason we survived. Without it we would have been dead a long time ago. We were bred to be hated, to be alone, to be feared. I don't want to be feared. I want to be respected. I want to be the Case Cage. They don't deserve to have us be the Case Cage. They should all die for the way they treated us. We are destined to be alone. Gaara's voice became a little quieter. I don't want to be alone. Even if the village has mistreated us, I will make them see things differently. I want friends. We can't have them. Gaara's real self gathered dozens of sand tentacles and began to batter at the shield that was shielding her. They're all empty shells that want us dead. We only have ourselves and the Shukaku. That is all we will ever have. We can only stop our pain by letting the Shukaku's hate protect us. The tentacles of sand ensnared Gaara as he dropped his shield of sand. He spoke in a gentle, kind voice. After feeling a sudden calmness wash over him, the tentacles were shattered as Gaara's shield rose again and encircled him in protective hands, saying, it is not the Shukaku that protects us, it's the love of our mother. The hands on the new shield belonged to a woman who stood behind Gaara. His eyes were blazing with new life. She has always loved us. As he looked at it, the tears of the real self returned with greater vigor than before. Mother? You are really protecting us? He asked, his bloody eyes beginning to clear and turning into genuine tears of happiness. I have my mother back. We never lost her. Gaara was standing beside him now, reaching out to pick him up where he had fallen. He took Gaara's hand and was dragged to his feet, asking, what are we supposed to do now? We accept her love, and we overcome the hate that has consumed us for far too long. The blood that had filled his eyes was now entirely gone from his true self's eyes. His hand began to dissolve into floating particles. His body was soon mostly gone. His last words were, she loved us. Gaara gave a nod, and the figure vanished. Naruto observed his companion getting up from his chair. Gaara's form was illuminated by the light from the sun, which was now at its highest point in the sky. When he turned around, the sand ninja grinned. You did it. Naruto threw his fist in the air and leapt. Gaara approached the blonde on the other side of the water. My heart has been freed from the hate. As soon as he landed, Naruto embraced him. Despite being taken aback by the embrace, Gaara did not object. Thank you, Naruto. The Uzumaki smiled and moved away from him. That was all, you, Gaara. Naruto extended his fist to him and said, I meant thank you for being my friend. What? The man who helped me through what you are doing now taught me this. Bringing his own fist up, Gaara struck Naruto's with it. He experienced an intense sense of connection all of a sudden. Yosh. Now let's go kick the Shukaku's tail. Lying on the grass, Shikamaru gazed up at the clouds that were passing overhead. This was how he liked to kill time. He thought it was preferable to staying with his mother at home. She might cause him some problems. The slothful ninja was ogling a particular group of clouds. He turned to face the girl behind his head and said, "That looked like a giant war fan. Wow, what a huge war fan." Over the Nara, Tamari pulled her fan away. "Don't you remember that you agreed to show me around the village when you got the time? What a bother, can't you see I'm busy right now? Hey, look Cloud Boy. I know damn well you have time on your hands. If you don't want to relive our fight from the Chunin exams, I suggest you get your butt moving. I swear, you're bossier than my mother." This gave Tamari a sly smile. "You can't knock a girl for knowing what she wants." "Oh, I didn't realize you wanted to be a pain in my neck." Shikamaru recoiled as a fist came flying down at his head. However, the strike never materialized. Tamari ruffled his hair instead, but not in a gentle way. "Thanks Shika, I'll definitely let you take me shopping. It's so kind of you to offer to pay for all my expenses too." Shikamaru let out a moan. She was going to hold him accountable for his remark. The woman had totally defeated him, and he knew that his wallet would do the same. Jiraiya reduced his chakra signature to its lowest point. He pushed himself as hard as he could against the tunnel wall ahead. From the cave came voices. His discovery of Itachi was largely a result of chance. The Uchiha must have realized he was being tailed, but he remained silent for some reason. Naruto claimed that the man was acting to protect the village, but I don't think that justifies his leniency toward me. Hell, the guy almost led me here. Jiraiya tensed up. He guided me here. When he heard a loud voice, the sudden fear that swept over him was put on hold. Then it is decided. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriku is our next target. He has full control over his tailed beast, and will prove to be a great challenge. However, we will use his own power against him, and the destruction of Konoha will be imminent. The attack begins in 2 years. You have until then to prepare. Footsteps were audible to the Toad Sage within the cave. 6, 7, 8 sets of footsteps are heard. Wait, there aren't any more people coming my way, so it's 9. Jiraiya started to retreat as swiftly and soundlessly as he had arrived, but Itachi, whose body was composed of crows, was on him in an instant. "I'm under a genjutsu. Yes, I brought you here so that you would know what is being planned. Protect the village." The Uchiha vanished as the genjutsu was released. Jiraiya backed off, returning to the village. A blonde sand ninja and a familiar face were spotted by a certain Akamichi and a Yamanaka as they prepared to enter their team's regular barbecue restaurant. "Hey, Shikamaru!" exclaimed the Akamichi. "Hey Choji, hey Ino." Shikamaru's hands were not in their usual position, and Ino noticed this. His pockets, they were occupied instead by almost a dozen bags from her favorite stores. After noticing Temari's smile, Ino thought, "What are you doing with Tamari? Why do you have all those bags? Those are from girls' clothing stores, you know? Wow, you two are already that far in your relationship that you started buying her stuff? Aw man, what a bother. It's not like that, Ino. Shikamaru here agreed to show me to the best places to shop, and he was too kind, and offered to pay for my things." Shikamaru let out a moan. His wallet was empty, and he still felt guilty about it. The girl wasted a whole month's worth of mission pay because she had no mercy on him. Even worse, she forced him to accompany her to the stores and share his thoughts on every article of clothing she tried on. "I don't care," or "It all looks the same to me," were his initial statements. His response, "Lady, I thought you were my slave driver," of course, earned him an extra large lump on the head, along with a few others. "Don't you know how to compliment a lady?" he was asked. Shikamaru simply nodded his head slightly in response to her declaration of his generosity. Rather than taking a chance compared to his mother, the woman was much more frightening. "Anyway, Shika and I are going to get some dango." Shoji interrupted. "Really? We were just coming here for some barbecue, but they serve dango too. Wanna join us?" "We would love to," she said, giving the Nara a sidelong elbow. "Wouldn't we?" "How troublesome. What was that?" Shikamaru let out a sigh. "I said, that sounds great." She clasped her arm around her escort, and they followed Shoji and Ino inside. "That's what I thought," she said. As they walked to their seats, Shikamaru glanced up at the ceiling. "Indeed, the girl is more powerful than my mother and extremely intimidating, but I seem to like something about her." He sighed once more. "How annoying." Gaara and Naruto stepped into a bright, empty room. It was all white, pink, and purple. Even though they were on the ground, everything appeared to blend into a single, formless area when the floor was so ill-defined that it appeared to be the same as everything else around them. It was strange to have a completely level surface beneath your feet. Gaara might have become lightheaded from the illusion the room created if Naruto hadn't told him to sit down. So what do I do now, Naruto? This room will allow you to confront the Shukaku directly when you close your eyes and concentrate. You will end up in your mindscape, there you will find him, and you will use the key formula I gave you to unlock his prison. I put some of my own chakra into your seal. Just like what was done with my mother's, that way I can help you when it comes to the fight over its chakra. What happens if I lose? You won't. Gaara shut his eyes. Darkness encircled him, but it gradually gave way to a less intense darkness. He was inside, but now he stood on a dune of sand. A huge room surrounded him. The floor was entirely covered in sand, and the lighting was glaring. After a while of walking forward, he came upon a massive gate with a single piece of paper in the center, where a lock would typically be. Seal was the symbol on it. So this must be what Naruto was talking about. Are you here to let me out, kid? Gaara's fingers began to glow as he pulled up his shirt. How did you know? The Shukaku approached the gate and put his sand arms around it. Hold on, you're actually letting me go? The paper was pulled from the gate by a sand tendril that sprang up. Then he turned his fingers and pressed them to his stomach. Of course, I am your days of power over me, and now I am taking control of your chakra. Boy, you're not serious. You're having your own funeral. We will see. Gaara unlocked the gate after completing the seal. The Shukaku's tail immediately swung out. The blow was deflected by Gaara's final defense, but it sent him flying backward. About 100 meters from the beast, the sand on the ground rose and caused him to slow down. The one tail charged ahead and started beating Gaara. Every strike was crushing. Each blow created a sandstorm and sent a wave of force through the surrounding area. Gaara raised more tendrils in an attempt to control the monster's movements, but he was like thread, tearing through the bindings. Kid, you made a mistake. I'll beat you up. You are a fool, Shukaku. This battle was over the moment you stepped into my trap. Under the one tail, the ground started to sink and swirl. The enormous quicksand pits sucked his legs in. You believe I'll be stopped by this? I will murder you, child. I'm going to be free no matter what. Don't I still have my arms and tail? 3 blonde ninjas emerged from the 3 vortex-shaped breaks in the sandstorm that had been whipped up around them, holding what appeared to be blue drills. No you don't, Rasenhurricane. The charges sliced straight through, leaving the Shukaku with only a head, a limbless torso, and buried legs. Fuck it. Not that boy yet. I'll kill you all, now Gaara. I know. A sand ninja's spirit-like form emerged from his body and seized a Shukaku spirit of a similar nature. The tug of war between the chakras started when he began to pull on it. I will not allow you to accept it. You don't have a chance even now. Gaara did not respond. He put all of his strength into pulling instead, but it soon became apparent that the one tail was drawing more forcefully, and Gaara sensed his chakra evaporating. Don't give up, Gaara. Pull, Naruto. I can't. He is still too powerful. By now, the last of his soul was nearly drugged out of his body. It's over. I triumph. Naruto leapt forward and delivered a devastating kick to the Shukaku's head, saying, Gaara, remember that you beat your hate. Remember your mother. Remember those who you are fighting for. Remember your friends. Remember love. The beast was knocked onto its back by the blow. Now pull. Gaara pulled with every ounce of strength in his body and screamed after being torn from the Shukaku's body. Its chakra was drawn into Gaara's. The Shukaku's sand body started to disintegrate, revealing a mutilated and shabby-tailed beast. This will not go unpunished. In an attempt to headbutt Gaara, he staggered forward. It was a huge wave of sand that crashed into him. The Shukaku was thrown back behind the gates after being dragged out of the quicksand by the wall of sand. The gates closed as Gaara put his hand on his stomach. The Shukaku was sealed shut as he turned his fingers back. I'll murder you. I'll give you a smash. All the people you love will die. I am going to. Sand exploded out of the one-tail's mouth as Gaara raised his hand and said, Shut up, much better. Gaara let his mindscape fade as he relaxed. Something was off with his body. It was energizing, powerful, and satisfying. He looked down at himself as he opened his eyes once more. A coating of sand, glowing almost gold, covered his body. He was surrounded by purple markings. Whoa, nice eyes, Gaara. What is different about my eyes? They look kinda like golden diamonds. It's really cool. Man, I wish my tailed beast mode was as awesome as yours. Naruto. Hello. That is offensive to me. Of all the tailed beasts, I am the strongest. Don't be careless with my form. Yeah, whatever, Kurama. I'm just saying. Who are you talking to, Naruto? Oh, just striking up a friendly conversation with Mr. Grouchy Fox. Sometimes, Naruto, I despise you. Kurama had his paw over his face in Naruto's own mindscape. A broad smile split Naruto's face. You did it, Gaara. Your mother would be so proud of you. This seemed to surprise the sand ninja a little. You think so? I know so, come on, we so need to get back to the village and show this to your siblings. Kankuro heard. How troublesome. Coming from a restaurant window while he was out trying to find his sister, who had been gone all day, he turned right away, went through the door, and approached the table of young ninja. I should have known that I would find you with your new boyfriend Tamari. You've been gone all day. You could have at least told me you wouldn't be coming home. I've been sitting around this whole time bored out of my mind. When he responded, Shikamaru was still a little flushed from the boyfriend remark. Look, it's not her fault that you were too much of a dumbass to get up and go do something on your own. Watch it, Shadow Boy. Do you want me to stick one of Crow's poison blades into you? With a sly smile on her face and her hands up to her chin, Ino spoke in a lighthearted manner. I don't think your sister would be too happy about you doing that to her boyfriend. She might even get violent. The mere thought of his sister's temper was enough to make Kankuro shudder. He might have continued to make his point, but he was interrupted by a cloud of smoke that made him cough. The puppet master let out an angry cry as the smoke cleared. What the hell was that? In between mouthfuls of food, Shoji spoke. That would be Naruto and your brother. Kankuro looked around, startled, and there they were. Tamari got up and approached her younger brother. And where have you two been all day? You haven't been doing anything inappropriate, have you now? Anger caused Naruto's face to flush. What the hell, Tamari? We're not gay. It's always the ones who deny it so adamantly. Naruto was prepared to strike the kunoichi in the face with his fist. What in the world was wrong with people? He wondered. People did interpret his actions as gay whenever they could be interpreted as such. Gaara maintained his composure despite sharing Naruto's feelings regarding the suggestion that he might be gay. We have been training, sister, not engaging in promiscuous acts. We came here to show you the fruit of our labor. If you are all done with your meal, I have something to show you. Naruto wanted to reach the Hyuga compound as quickly as possible because the sun was now setting. He hoped he could convince Hinata to join him for dinner. It had taken longer than he had anticipated to demonstrate Gaara's newfound mastery of the Shukaku. Gaara's siblings were astonished and kept asking questions. They wanted Gaara to demonstrate a number of new skills, which ultimately served as a learning experience for both him and his siblings. Actually, before visiting his brother and sister, they hadn't even bothered to try anything in his one-tail mode. Ultimately, it took longer than Naruto had anticipated, and it's possible that Hinata has already consumed dinner when the guards noticed Naruto. They let him pass. It should have come as no surprise to the blonde when Hiyashi Hyuga emerged through the front door. Hello Naruto, may I ask why you have come here this evening? Well Pops, you see, I kinda had a long day. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I was hoping that Hinata would join me for some. The girl emerged from behind her dad. I would love to Naruto. Hiyashi's gaze lowered to his daughter. No stutter. He nodded. This boy could do wonders for your confidence. He turned to Naruto and said, very well, you may go with him. See to it that you do not stay out too late. I would not like unwanted rumors going around about my daughter's nighttime activates. Naruto figured it out. He grabbed hold of a heavily flushed Hinata and almost pulled the poor girl out of the compound, saying, you got it Pops. The Hyuga mental sighed. They would be dead if anyone else called me Pops, but you. There was something about the boy that made him smile and made him feel special. Can you handle the cost, Naruto? You once more? How much? The cost of time. What is the intended meaning of that? Who are you? You must pay a price. What is to be has been altered by you to get them to come again. I now need to change things. I'll make up for everything you did. I'm not getting it. All that has been shall be again. Naruto's eyes widened in horror as memories of Hinata's death, the deaths of his friends, and shinobi flooded his mind. I will not allow you to take them from me once more. We shall see. Naruto, are you okay? Though Hinata's fainting spells were common, she never imagined that Naruto could be struck with the same thing. The Hyuga had been feeling horrible that her forwardness caused the object of her affections to faint, but now he was coming to. Hinata was bending over the boy. They had only gone about halfway down the road to the main part of the village when Naruto collapsed on the ground. They had been holding hands, and she had just given him a peck on the cheek. Hinata. What's happening? I apologize, Naruto, my intention was not to be so forward. Hinata. What are you talking about? You have nothing to apologize for. After a moment of shock, the girl said, but when I kissed you, you passed out. Naruto's face blushed slightly. Oh, that. The kiss had nothing to do with it, so don't worry about it. The girl was only more concerned about him now, so if that was meant to reassure Hinata, it didn't work. If that didn't make you faint, then what did? When the blonde noticed her level of concern, he got up and gave her a hug, saying, it's nothing to get worked up over, Hinata. Even though she was satisfied with his response, she took a step back to examine his face after hearing a hint of fear in his voice. Naruto, please tell me what's going on." He postponed the questioning because he didn't want to lie to her, saying, "I can't really talk about it." "Oh, does it belong to someone else?" No, that kind of thing. I'm alone." "Then you can put your trust in me, I'll hear everything you have to say." I apologized to Hinata, but I must keep this to myself, alright? Does he not trust me? Is something wrong with me? Hinata's eyes began to well up with tears as she realized how much Naruto had done for her and how she only wanted to return the favor. She wanted to help him, but it was obvious that he didn't want to talk about it. The girl's face was gloomy, and the ground beneath her was getting wet. Naruto's voice was gentle and reassuring. "Hinata." He put a hand on her shoulder, but she resisted his touch, and he felt his stomach tighten. "Please don't cry." She was crying as she spoke. "I just want to help." "I know you do, but this is a battle I have to fight on my own." She stopped stuttering and said, "I don't want you to do this alone." Her heart hurt. She felt so worthless, and the fact that he couldn't trust her made her doubt her value. It was too much, and she ran back down the road to the compound, barely seeing where she was going through her tears, but she would never make it there because a blonde ninja appeared in front of her and blocked her path when he wouldn't let her pull away. She just sobbed into his jacket and kept asking why he didn't trust her. For a while, he simply let her and gave her a Rias. "I never want to harm you, Hinata. However, I am currently wielding a double-edged sword. However, I never want to give the impression that I don't believe in you." After controlling her tears, the Hyuga said, "Why you do trust me?" "With my life. What I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult," Hinata said, looking up in confusion. "I owe you that much." Naruto only told Jiraiya and Hinata what had happened in their final moments together during the war, and now he was telling the girl herself about everything that had happened, the lives lost, and his anguish at seeing her die. Hinata was enthralled with the story, and when he claimed that he had returned to make things different, she believed it was over, but he went on to tell her about his blackouts and times, warning that it would happen again. "Why you adore me?" That would be the most significant thing she took away from it all. Naruto sighed, but it still made him smile. "Yes, and I don't want to lose you again," he said. "I'll keep this village safe." Despite the seriousness of what she had just heard, Hinata had to return the smile. "Enough cleaning up, let's go grab a bite to eat." Naruto and Hinata hurried to their favorite ramen shop. "He sure does bounce back quickly," the Hyuga chuckled to herself. A pair of green spandex ninjas were directly disobeying doctor's orders in other parts of Konoha. 4,994, 4,995, 4,996 inches. "All right. Lee, let your youthful passions burn brightly." Guy got off Lee's back as he completed the final one-fingered push-up. "Good job, Lee. I'm very pleased with you." The scene that was about to be revealed would make anyone with a weak stomach turn away. "Hey, sensei." "Lee, dude, sensei." "Lee, dude, sensei." The two embraced with tears streaming down their faces as they continued to yell each other's names, becoming louder with each cycle, until the door of Lee's hospital room flew open, revealing a furious Tsunade. Somehow, the laws of the universe were disregarded, and the sun set outside for the second time that day. Did I mention that Lee needed to rest in bed? For heaven's sake, just 2 days ago, the boy had almost every muscle fiber in his body torn. When I arrived, I discovered that you had your student working out, even though I had assumed I could rely on you to have a cordial visit with him. Go out. The woman literally threw Guy out on his ear, which made him frightened. "And don't think I don't know you went along with this willingly," Tsunade said, slamming the door and turning to face a terrified Lee. "You're going to get the bed rest I mentioned you needed." As Tsunade picked him up, tossed him onto the bed, pulled out various restraints, and tied him down, Lee could only watch in horror. He sighed in relief when she left the room, but it was short-lived because she returned with a boulder in her arms and placed it directly on top of him. "I promise that I will place a mountain on top of you if I return and you leave this to work out." "Yes, Lady Hokage. No more working out until you say so, I swear." He would stop at nothing to spare her from her unforgiving wrath, and he meant it. Guy's stomach growled as he was leaving the hospital, pouting over his run-in with the Hokage. "I suppose it's time to add nutrients to stoke my youthful desires," Guy essentially shouted, impractical to nobody. But someone did answer. "Huh? What do you say?" Guy turned and pointed to the ninja leaning on a nearby tree after recognizing his rival's voice. "Darn you, Kakashi. Why must you be so cool all the time? I challenge you to a youth competition, that's all." In order to hear Guy's words, Kakashi actually closed his favorite orange book. "So what will it be this time?" "You're up against me in a ramen eating competition." I'm a little hungry, now that I think about it, of course, why not? Yosh. I will demonstrate that my youthful flames burn brighter than yours, Kakashi. What was that? What do you say? Gah, never again. To provide the competition with food, the two Jonin traveled to Ichiraku's. Alright, let me clarify, do you two want me to prepare as much ramen as possible? This store has a lot of ramen, and I doubt you could finish it all. My friend Tucci, never undervalue the influence of youth. I'm going to beat my opponent tonight, and I'll need everything you've got. With a sigh, Ayame began getting everything ready, saying, come on, Dad, I'll need your help for this. As Kiba was walking by the ramen stand, he stopped to eat because it smelled delicious and he was hungry, but he was surprised to see two disabled Jonin sitting there with their bellies swollen. Kakashi-sensei. Guy-sensei. What on earth is happening here? They had an eating contest. Ayame responded on their behalf. Guy prevailed by a single bowl. Whoa. How much food did they consume? All of it? What? Did they consume all of your ramen? However, I also came here to eat. Well, we do have just enough left for one more bowl if you want. Yes, that would be fantastic. A certain Hyuga Uzumaki couple entered as soon as Kiba had his bowl. Ayame, please give me 2 orders of miso ramen. Actually, Naruto, I just served the last of it to Kiba. What do you mean, the last of it, Ayame? The blonde said, falling back onto his back and twitching on the floor for a moment before getting back up and pointing at her as fast as he felt it. Pointing to Guy and Kakashi, she said, I mean, they ate all but one bowl of it, and one gave that bowl to Kiba there. Even though Kiba was hungry, he couldn't resist playing with the blonde while Naruto was pouting. Hey Naruto. Do you want mine? Excited, Naruto turned to face the dog ninja, but as soon as Kiba threw it to the ground, his expression quickly changed to one of despair. Wow, that Kiba was crazy. Oops, for that, I'm going to kick your ass. Good ramen is never wasted. Then I'll see you tomorrow for a rematch at Training Ground 3. Worked like a charm, Kiba grinned. After a moment's hesitation, Naruto said, actually Kiba, we should pick a different one. What? Why? Well, Lee and I kinda broke it. Deadpanned, Kiba said, you broke a training ground. Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head, saying, yeah, we got carried away. The idea of how much power it would take to do something like that made Kiba's face go white. Hey, you know what? I just realized that I won't be able to have that rematch because I have a lot of work tomorrow. Don't worry, Kiba. The following day, we can do it, Naruto grinned and said, I'm too excited for a fight. No, that is not going to work. Actually, team training keeps me very busy throughout the week. He was ruined by Hinata's gentle voice. But Kiba, Karini-sensei gave us the whole week off. Kiba stood up quickly. Oh, check out the time, I must leave, and he vanished in an instant. Ah, come on Granny, I'm sure they are fine. Tsunade threw another chair at Naruto. Going through it again, the missile broke over Naruto's body as it hit home that month. That amounted to 7 chairs. What did I tell you about calling me that? Besides, the hidden sand is a 4-day journey. Gaara and his siblings have been gone for 9, and we have yet to hear of their arrival. Naruto. Something is not right. After removing himself from the chair's remnants, Naruto got back up. Look, those guys can take care of themselves. I really don't see the problem, and why are we brining Shikamaru's lazy ass and dog boy? Hinata and I could take care of this on our own. A vein was clearly protruding from the Hokage's head. You are the only ninja available to take this mission right now. Kiba and Hinata will be there to scout out danger, and Shikamaru is to be team leader and babysitter. The Watcher of the Clouds moaned. Aw man, that sounds troublesome. Naruto was furious. What the hell do you mean by babysitter? Now Tsunade was grinning. With you and Hinata on the same team, we have to make sure you two don't get carried away. Everyone in the village knew that those two were now together. The Hyuga girl started pressing her pointer fingers together as her face flushed. Conversely, Naruto deadpanned. Why does everyone think I'm a bad person? Gaara, then Sasuke, and now Hinata. I don't live a scene straight out of Pervy Sage's books. Akamaru barking nervously. Yeah, I agree boy. Come on guys, it's getting boring just sitting here. Let's go already. Naruto sagged slightly. I don't really feel like going. Moving. Gu. Tsunade interrupted his complaint. She grabbed the blonde's collar. If you don't feel like moving, I'll help you, Naruto says as his body is heaved halfway across the village and out the window. Anyone else? Since Shikamaru had just received a promotion, The other two Genin and Chunin promptly shook their heads before any more problems could arise that could provoke the Hokage's wrath. They left the office. Hinata can take point. Naruto and I will be in the middle, and Kiba can bring up the rear. It's important to keep our sensory ninja at both ends so we can get an advanced warning if there are any enemies. The group took off after Hinata took the lead. Not even an hour into their journey had passed when Hinata used her Byakugan to periodically scan the area for something. Hinata maintained their usual pace while alerting the others to an enemy with a covert sign. They were now the ones being watched. But praying eyes did not realize it. A man with dark skin and straight spiked black hair was hiding in a nearby tree. He was wearing loose-fitting black trousers and a red mesh shirt that reached his wrists. On his forehead there was a hidden rock headband with a scratched symbol. "Well, Kato, looks like we have a group of little ninja entering our territory. Let's have some fun with them." "Oh Kazaku, you are despicable. They are just children. I'll get the others." Even down to his sandals, the short man who responded was dressed entirely in black. On his back, two katanas were strung like his teammate. He had both eyes covered by a hidden mist headband with a slash through it to prepare for an ambush. He retreated to the other members of their group. Hinata kept moving forward, watching the two ninja who were now coming closer. A dozen or so more figures appeared on the outskirts of her field of vision. Coming up on either side, they blocked her path as soon as they closed in, throwing a group of kunai with ninja wires in front of her. Shikamaru yelled, "Hinata! Naruto! Take the left side." Kiba were taking the guys on the right. A huge man brandishing a war club yelled, "You won't be taking anyone." He was about to split open Shikamaru's head with the club when he was abruptly stopped. The Nara cast a shadow that connected him to the other man. Kiba kicked him in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him just as he was about to scream out a series of curses as a man-beast clone. Akamaru descended and slammed the man to the ground. The rest of the group had already surrounded them with a variety of weapons. Kiba gave Shikamaru a sly smile. "You can sit this round out." "Suits me well enough." The dog ninja began his trademark spinning attack with his partner, Fang over Fang. The slashing attacks abruptly tore the group apart in the assault. Almost all of them lost their weapons. The bodies of the two men who survived were covered in stinging cuts, but that didn't last long because Kiba and Akamaru both crashed into them once more. The sounds of combat were broken by a harsh, cold voice. "I should really tell Kazaku to get better men. They couldn't even take on a couple of kids. Once I finish with you two, I'll kill them myself." "Kiba, this guy is different than the others. He's probably a ninja. Do you plan on standing there, or taking the headband off your eyes and fighting me?" he asked, turning back to face the man. "I know." The man removed it, exposing a face devoid of eyes. "What the hell? You have no eyes. How do you fight blind?" "Let me show you." With his katanas drawn, Kato charged in. Slash after slash rushed at the dog pair, forcing them to the defense in a flash. Kiba continued to be busy avoiding the blows as Akamaru broke off to attack from behind. "You will not get me with such a simple tactic." Before Akamaru could tackle him from behind, Kato turned and kicked him. As Kato twisted back around, Kiba launched his own attack but had to break off before the pair of katanas slashed out at him, cleaving him in three as Shadow suddenly rushed out to meet his, but the black ninja leapt out of its way in time. "You won't get me with that same cheap trick you got Bear with." Shikamaru let out a sigh. That first guy's name was Bear, huh? Seems fitting. Why can't this guy be as easy to deal with as him? How troublesome. More troublesome than you can deal with. A single katana sailed past Shikamaru's head before he could even duck. After that, he rolled aside and glanced over to see that Kato was still standing where he had been speaking, but now he had just one katana in his hands. "What the hell? I never saw you make hand signs for a clone." "I didn't. You're not the only one who can manipulate shadows, boy." The shadow behind him was indeed a solid one, and it circled back to Kato. A group of shuriken that Shikamaru threw at the shadow were thrown straight through it. "Darn. Should have seen that coming. Quite a handy technique, isn't it? It's capable of holding my special chakra katanas. This extension of myself is completely silent, unable to be killed, fast, and deadly. These things make it perfect to pair with my old village's special jutsu, hidden mist jutsu." Kiba and Shikamaru exchanged a knowing glance, and the dog ninja slightly withdrew. Kato swiftly vanished into the encircling mist, leaving the genin to handle his stand-in. Shikamaru dodged a katana slash just in time, drawing out a kunai in order to defend himself. He had to rely on the sound of the blade slicing through the atmosphere rather than the sound of breathing or movement. The voice of their enemy seemed to be coming from everywhere. "I wonder how long you and your friend will last." Shikamaru could now hear the blade's sound directly behind him. "Dude, you have no time." The blade entered his chest and went straight through his back. The blade then stuck through a log as a puff of smoke burst forth. "You can't hide from my sense of smell. fang over fang. Where Kato was, Kiba and Akamaru both blasted into a nearby tree. He threw some kunai at them and swiftly dodged the attack. The weapons were easily deflected by the spinning attack. The pair entered for a second pass. One of the fangs was sliced by the mist ninja's katana, but it was deflected while he was still upright. The other fang entered from behind and slammed into him. The shadow-fighting Shikamaru became less hostile as a result of Kiba's attack, and its blows were easier to avoid. The black-clad ninja were obviously having trouble focusing on two battles at once. Even though Kato's back was now heavily bleeding, he recovered. It would appear that I am not the only one with enhanced senses. I have never needed eyes, and that suited this style of fighting well. However, some one of your abilities can be a pest, so it's time to die. To thrust his katana into Kiba, the mist ninja charged forward. There was no need to dodge the blow, but he moved too quickly to do so. With his blade inches from Kiba, Kato froze. Shadow possession complete. How? Unlike me, you can't form your shadows in this mist. The Shadow Warrior's katana was in Shikamaru's grasp. You made a mistake telling me these were chakra katanas. Once Kiba got you distracted, and your shadows fighting got sloppy, it was easy for me to grab the blade with you already providing the shadow. All I had to do was put my chakra into it. Damn you, Ki. The ninja was rendered unconscious when Kiba struck Kato in the face with his fist. Only the group leader remained after Hinata and Naruto's taijutsu skills easily defeated the bandits pursuing them. Kazaku gave the two a menacing smile. By now your Kato has already killed your friends. Now it's your turn to die. In fact, Naruto made fun of the former rock ninja. You really don't know what you're up against, do you? Shikamaru probably took care of this. Kato. Guy you're referring to, and he's a freaking genius. But you have too much on your plate with Hinata and me here to worry about him. You believe you can worry me? Flames erupted at the Leaf Ninja, and vortexes of fire engulfed Kazaku's arms. They avoided the first blast, but the heat was still unbearably uncomfortable, and Naruto laughed. Why in the world do you find being a burned-out child so funny? The flame of Naruto's nine tails aura engulfed his entire body. Mine's bigger. A tail of chakra from the blonde's body cut straight through the flame, crushing the rock ninja into the tree behind him. Kazaku's eyes widened, but he pushed all of his chakra into his flames to try and burn Naruto to death. Anyhow, from where Naruto and Hinata were standing, the sound of his ribs cracking could be heard, and the man was fortunate to already be unconscious from the blow. Looking on in awe of what she had just witnessed, Hinata said, "Wow, so that's the power of why your nine tails mode?" He smiled and said, "You haven't seen anything yet, Hinata." The remainder of the journey to the hidden sand proceeded smoothly, and when their group reached the village's front gate, the guards were reluctant to let them in until Naruto gave them his name, at which point they abruptly thanked him and moved aside. Naruto had tied up the bandits and sent a toad summon with a message to come pick the guys up to the Hokage. Naruto turned to his teammates once they were safely inside the village and said, "I wonder what that was all about. When the guards heard my name, why did they let us pass? Your idiocracy is probably famous even out in Suna, so they just didn't want to deal with you," Kiba said in an attempt to poke fun at him. Shikamaru simply stared up at the clouds, wondering why the man upstairs wanted to punish him in this way, while Hinata blushed at the behavior of the two that was drawing some glares from the villagers. The argument quickly descended into childish insults, but it stopped when they noticed a certain redhead sitting down at an outdoor restaurant. Calling out, Naruto said, "Hey Gaara." "Hello Naruto." Gaara turned away from the young girl sitting at the table with him. He recalled his mission just as the blonde was ready to rush over and embrace the sand ninja. "Hey, hold on a minute, why in the world haven't you informed Konoha that you've returned?" Gaara appeared to become somewhat agitated. "Oh that, I forgot. You see, the council deciding that I was to be the next Kazekage after I displayed my control over the Shukaku when I got back. However, the initiation wouldn't be for 2 weeks, so I've been spending a lot my days with Matsuri here. I've been enjoying my time with her so much. The need to report back must have just slipped my mind. In fact, I'm on a date right now." He pointed to the young woman in front of him. The girl wore a blue shirt that hung slightly off her left shoulder, a short black skirt, a yellow scarf, and short brown hair. She said, "Hello," before turning to face Naruto. "You must be the one that my Gaara keeps talking about." When they realized what had happened, their entire group deadpanned. The reason for this mission was that Gaara was too preoccupied with a new girlfriend to submit a straightforward report. Gaara proposed that they remain until the ceremony for him becoming Kazekage, since their group had already arrived at the hidden sand. Naruto reasoned that he would have the opportunity to see Gaara and spend some time with Hinata. Naturally, Hinata was excited to be alone with Naruto, away from Konoha. When Kiba was given the opportunity to train under one of their Jonin, He was completely unconcerned by the prospect he would try to catch up to Naruto by any means possible. Conversely, Shikamaru pulled out the short stick. Temari would take advantage of Inara's presence whenever she learned that he was in town. As a sand shinobi, Samakina was rather unusual in his village. He was the only person with a fire affinity. Although Kiba was aware of his fire chakra nature, he had never trained it. Instead, he stuck to what his clan could do. But Samakina was a master of fire techniques, so being a Jonin was not a coincidence. He decided to devote the next 2 weeks to rigorous ninjutsu training after discovering that Kiba shared his affinity. Samakina wanted to see what Kiba could do in order to get a starting point. The Jonin was not impressed when the Inuzuka showed his new instructor his entire skill set. The sand ninja grinned evilly as he said, "Your skills rely almost entirely on hand-to-hand combat. Every move you have requires you to physically hit your opponent. I will change that." So for the next 2 weeks, he appeared to be engulfed in enormous flames. Welcome to hell. Kiba began to perspire heavily, but not because of the flames' heat. Shikamaru went to the somewhat exotic park to lie down and observe the clouds in order to make the most of his limited alone time before she appeared with more shrubs and branches of desert trees that were far wider than most. It was nothing like the parks in Konoha. Shikamaru would not have been able to see the clouds, but the shade they offered would have been a pleasant diversion from the heat. He located a pleasant, open bench and spread himself out on it, saying, "What a bother." He was lost in thought, his eyes wandering aimlessly among the clouds. Why do people want me to do things? He gazed at a specific cloud that resembled a bowl of ramen. It would have been so much easier to just stay in Konoha and rest. That made him think of a certain blonde ninja, and then he groaned and palmed his face. That kid has the ability to teleport. He was too much of an idiot to consider simply warping here to learn what was happening. Aw man. But now that he had a different blonde on his mind, or rather, in front of his face, that was going to be the least of his grievances. "Hi, Shika, I was informed by a messenger that you would be here for the entire week. Come on, he's got work to do." After learning that Gaara was already set to become the next Kazekage, the Uzumaki had some catching up to do, so Naruto and Hinata stayed behind with Gaara and Matsuri. "How did that occur, then? I mean, you've changed for the better, you're strong, and the village needed a new leader. However, what did you do to gain their acceptance so fast?" Fear, a new emotion you wouldn't think the redhead could have, appeared in Gaara's eyes. "Well, it's a bit of an interesting story, so if you want to hear, I'll tell you," Gaara said. Flashback. After their stay in Konoha, Gaara and his siblings had just returned to their village. You might think that coming home would make you feel good, but that wasn't the case. They had lost many ninja in the invasion, even though they had made amends with the Hidden Leaf, and then there was Orochimaru's murder of their father, the fourth Kazekage. Not only that, but they had no leader anymore. They were thinking about those things. That is, on Temari's and Konkuro's minds. Gaara's feelings were different. There was determination in every step he took, and a fire burned in his normally icy eyes. His new scheme startled both his sister and brother. "When we get to the village, I will confront the council with a proposition. I will be the next Kazekage." "How on earth is that going to work?" The other two exchanged glances. "He expects to become Kazekage because they want him dead." He went on as though he could sense his siblings' skepticism. "I now have control over the Shukaku, as you well know, and our father was the fourth. They will not deny me." There were benefits to being the children of a Kazekage. A meeting was called right away when they asked to consult the elders. The three were in the middle of a semicircle of officials and elders within an hour of arriving home. Everything fell silent when someone coughed from the center of the curved table. One of the men, who looked to be in his late 60s, got up. The man practically spat out the last name, Temari, Konkuro, Gaara. "Why have you called for a meeting so hastily?" The way he pronounced her little brother's name clearly annoyed the girl, and she was on the verge of losing her temper. He slowly scanned the faces of everyone present and gestured to everyone, saying, "It's okay, Temari, I haven't yet given this village a reason to respect me. I do not need you to defend me. I would like to start by offering my apologies to the village for what I have done to it. I hope that you can all forgive me. As I have already forgiven all of you, I would like the chance to heal any wounds I may have caused, and take up the leadership of our village as the next Kazekage." The council was suddenly filled with dissatisfaction. They were furious at the thought of Gaara becoming the next Kazekage and felt that he had nothing to forgive them for. Temari lost it over that. The room fell silent. "Shut the hell up, all of you. You bunch of cowards," was the cry. "What the devil is wrong with you people? You can't even apologize for how you treated Gaara. My little brother wasn't the one who started this. You all threw the first punch at him. What did you expect to happen? He was raised without our mother, our father never showed him love, and the rest of you hated him for what you did to him. If I were Gaara, I would never forgive any of you. I suppose that just goes to show that my little brother is willing to take responsibility for the village." At her argument, one of the council's younger members felt especially bold and retaliated, saying, "Of course we don't deserve him. What a monster he is. We need a leader, not a freak, for our village. Someone far better than that is what we deserve." Temari's war fan was about to crush the man's skull in the blink of an eye. But Gaara's sand stopped the blow even faster than his sister's, and his body was glowing a light gold now, with blue marks stretching across it, and his diamond eyes returning. A new kind of silence descended upon the group, one that was so deafening that you could almost hear the quick heartbeats of everyone in the room. But then Gaara's voice broke the cloak of quiet. He waited for his sister to remove her fan before continuing, saying, "Temari, that is enough. I don't blame you for thinking I'm a monster, because that's all I've ever done. But I want to prove to you that I've changed. Now look at me. Do you see the power that surrounds me? This is the Shukaku's power, and I took it away from him with the assistance of a close friend. He no longer controls his own chakra or my thoughts. My friend guided me to the path I currently take and taught me a better way to live. He assisted me in overcoming the hatred that seized my heart. He made it easier for me to see how much I value the people in my life. Being the cage of our wonderful people is a new dream, a new purpose, and a new reason to live, which he helped me realize." "Who was it that brought this change to you?" said the man who opened the meeting once more. "What did he do?" Gaara grinned and said, "He's Naruto Uzumaki, and he loved me." Final flashback. "That's amazing, Gaara. You are fantastic. Thank you, Naruto. However, I could not have done it without you, and I could not have done it without my siblings beside me." The blonde grimaced slightly as his thoughts turned to a kunoichi with the same hair color. "Remind me to never piss off your sister." "Yes, my sister can be a little fearsome," said Gaara. Reviving the same fear that had been in his eyes before he told his story, he now altered the tone and the course of the conversation, saying, "But now that we have completed bringing you up to speed, may I return to my date for the time being? It would be best for everyone if we stayed on her good side." "Looks like you didn't fill us in on everything," stated Naruto in another deadpan. "Oh yes, I never told you about Matsuri," Gaara said with a new smile. "You see, word spread swiftly following our council meeting, which concluded with a consensus that I would be the next cage. I would assist the village in any way I could because I was keen to demonstrate to them that I would be a trustworthy leader. Many girls quickly warmed up to me and, to be honest, showed me new affections that I would have liked, but Matsuri was not like that." He blushed now. "I found her shy nature cute, so I approached her. I noticed her staying back from the main group, and she didn't throw herself after me like those other women did." The Hyuga girl beside him, who had remained silent throughout the entire conversation, caught Naruto's attention. "Well, I can't blame you there. I'm guilty as charged if pursuing the shy girl is a crime." Naturally, this caused Hinata to flush a lot. Naruto always thought that was cute, so he did what any man would do to his embarrassed girlfriend. He leaned in and kissed her. Hinata's face became even hotter, her heart began to race, and she began to feel lightheaded, but she managed to avoid the embarrassment of fainting in front of the cage by sheer willpower. When the Uzumaki suggested that Naruto and Hinata go on their own date, Hinata quickly snubbed the idea of finding a ramen stand before he could even suggest it, stating that she was not hungry. Instead, they decided on a pleasant stroll through the park. As they turned to look, they noticed a blonde kunoichi dragging a sluggish Nara out of the park. Naruto was still sulking a little over not getting to eat his favorite food when they heard the unmistakable, "How troublesome. Looks like Shikamaru is in for a fun stay here," Naruto said, pointing to the strange couple. The Hyuga burst out laughing at this, but Naruto turned to her and interrupted them. He smiled mischievously and said, "Don't think he's the only one who's going to enjoy it." With a vengeance, her blush returned. What do you mean, Naruto?" Hinata's legs went weak, and as the blonde pushed against her, they fell back into a flower garden area of the park, where the sweet aura surrounding them and the excitement of the situation created a surreal experience. Naruto's arms wrapped around her and his lips pressed against hers, giving her the answer she expected. Looking down at the girl he was in love with, Naruto said, "I love you, Hinata." Immediately, the girl passed out. Kiba headed to the house Gaara had reserved for the Konoha ninja to stay in. He may have felt strange about living in the home of a Suna ninja who had been killed in the invasion, but his hands would not let him think about that. He was too preoccupied with the pain of his burns. Even with the bandages on them, Samakina showed no mercy for the first day. After all, Kiba had only been practicing the fundamentals of fire ninjutsu, and it was taking a lot of effort to simply form a small fireball in his palm. "I expect to see you back here at 7 a.m. sharp. If you are even a second late, there will be dire consequences," Kiba recalled Samakina saying before they retired for the day. Knowing the man was crazy, Kiba didn't want to risk anything, so he would make sure he was there an hour early, better safe than sorry. The dog ninja opened the door to their temporary quarters, knowing that Hinata would take the bedroom, so that was out of the question as a place to sleep. He then turned to face the chair that contained a faintly conscious Shikamaru, who had apparently had a difficult day. He then set his sights on a sleeping Naruto on the couch, to which Akamaru gave him a yip of approval before Kiba kicked the blonde hard, sending him falling off the couch. He was prepared for a furious Uzumaki to scream at him, but he miraculously remained asleep on the floor. Meh. Works for me, he said softly before lying down, and Akamaru tucked himself into his side, and soon they were snoring softly. Tamari palmed her face and said, "Shika, hurry up. Today is the coronation of Gaara. To be honest, I didn't anticipate having to choose the outfit myself when I agreed to assist you in finding one. Why must you be so controlling? Furthermore, I didn't ask you for assistance. The person who knocked on my door and pulled me to your house is you, unruly woman. You didn't bring any appropriate clothing for this occasion, and that's not my fault. Well, it wasn't exactly like we packed for this when we left for your village. And for that reason, Shika, I brought you to our home." She took something out of the closet and said, Kankuro has a lot of formal clothes that he never even wears. This black kimono is going to look great with my white dress." With a dejected sigh, Shikamaru dressed as she had decided. "Good, now we can be seen as a couple in public," Tamari grinned. "Great, now she decided we're together, don't I get any say in this?" Shikamaru sighed again, deciding it would be best to keep his earlier thought to himself. "Yeah, great." A blonde boy caught their attention as they were leaving the Sand siblings' house. He was wearing a black kimono with orange and red patterns running through it. The marks appeared to flow together toward his back, where they did, in fact, form the Uzumaki clan symbol, and the patterns were delicately trimmed in gold. The first person to recognize the sight was Tamari. "Damn nice attire." "Oh, this? Yes, Hinata took me shopping today to find an outfit, but we were never able to find anything that fit. We eventually located a store that offered to create a personalized one for me. I was apprehensive at first, but after he showed me a sketch of his thoughts, I decided to spend the additional money. Not bad, isn't it?" He paused when he noticed that Tamari and Shikamaru had just left her house together. "Dang, that escalated quickly, and I see you TW." Shikamaru simply gazed up at the blushing clouds while Tamari froze. "You have 5 seconds to run, then IWI, she said, her tone surprisingly even as her anger rose. Instead of waiting to hear the others, Naruto fled as quickly as possible by taking to the rooftops, but when the 5 seconds were up, he heard a roar. "Time's up. You little brat, you're dead." The crowd gathered in front of the cage building was broken up by Naruto. Tamari had left him with bruises on his front side, which made him wince every time someone touched it. In addition, there was still a big lump on his head where she had smashed her war fan. These wounds were not healing as quickly as he would have liked, even with the fox. In any case, he eventually made it to the spot where Shikamaru and Hinata were standing. Hinata wore a white kimono adorned with lavender flowers. To make the flowers stand out, a thin line of a deeper purple was added to their edges. It was a straightforward but tasteful design. Her eyes shone brilliantly, perfectly highlighting her robe. When Naruto saw her standing out like this, his heart felt like it might burst. Shikamaru, however, was completely unremarkable in his simple black kimono. However, Naruto might not have noticed if he was screaming and on fire. No, he was engrossed in his princess's appearance. He was able to pause staring at her long enough to say hello. Hello Hinata. Naruto's stutter caused the Hyuga to giggle. She was supposed to do that. For what was likely the 100th time that day, Shikamaru let out a sigh. "Yeah, good to see you too, Naruto." Naruto turned to face him as though he had never seen him before. "Oh, Shikamaru. Did you just get here?" The Nara's head hung. "I've been here the whole time. Hinata has, you idiot." The blonde was now clumsily scratching the back of his head. "Ha ha, sorry." All Shikamaru did was wave him away. He couldn't hold the man responsible. Hinata did look fantastic, after all, but he would never acknowledge that Tamari would kill him if she found out. Kiba's arrival saved the day before the awkwardness could worsen. "Hey guys." Every face deadpanned and every head turned. Kiba wore a kimono that was all red and featured an Akamaru face on the chest. The back featured a bold black outline and an even darker red Inuzuka clan emblem on Kiba's head. Akamaru was sitting comfortably. "So, what do you guys think?" Akamaru loved it, and I couldn't turn him down. The first person to talk to her teammate was Hinata. "It looks wonderful KK." Naruto interrupted her. "It looks like crap." Suddenly, Kiba became enraged. "What was that?" "I said it looks horrible," Kiba exclaimed. "If you think this is bad, Then what the hell do you call what you're wearing? Despite his admiration for Naruto's kimono, he thought it looked fantastic. Hinata stood in the way of her teammate and boyfriend. And Naruto, Kiba, please, people are starting to stare. Kiba would have probably added at least one more insult, but he was overcome with fear, the sort of fear that only one person could instill. He heard a menacing voice behind him. Hello Brad, where were you for this morning's training? Even though Kiba was aware that he had been granted the day off for Gaara's coronation, he dared not challenge his new sensei. I am sorry Samakina-sensei. Naruto whispered as he bent to Hinata's ear. Sounds like that guy's got Kiba whipped. The dog ninja heard that because of his improved hearing, and he promised to get him back for the comment later. After that, Samakina's attitude abruptly changed and he burst out laughing. Oh kid. You should have seen your face just now. After removing Akamaru from Kiba's head, he began massaging his hair. The dog even knew better than to growl at the person who was using the flames. Samakina's voice grew ominous once more. All I need to do is obtain our soon-to-be Kage's consent in the morning so that I can give you a gift when you depart the village tomorrow. Maybe I should just duck out of the village tonight, rather than wait for the morning, Kiba said, his mind racing with ideas of what kind of crazy, terrible, and evil thing his sensei could have planned for him. The last 2 weeks had already been hell, and he was not very excited about what might be in store for him. The cheering lasted for a few minutes before Gaara raised his hand for silence, and as their group looked up, they saw him emerge from the Kage building and walk out to the edge of the balcony overlooking the people. I appreciate everyone's attendance on this particular day. In our recent history, we have experienced difficult times. Someone has betrayed us. Orochimaru tricked us into doing as he said. He left our hearts afraid and our people hurt in the wake of his evil. He removed our Kage and abandoned our village to crumble into dust. But on this day, we will demonstrate to the entire world, not just Orochimaru, that the Sanagakure people are resilient. Our forces will be reconstructed, we'll bounce back stronger, we'll prove that we deserve to be among the 5 great countries. This village's residents have an unwavering determination to live, to thrive. Despite being knocked down, we will rise again. We'll return stronger. This is just the beginning. I am proud to declare that I am a Sanagakure shinobi on this day. Gaara of the desert is who I am. Our people's Kage as me. The crowd erupted in even louder cheers as Tamari emerged and laid the Kage's hat on Gaara's head, and when she was done, Tamari stood to Gaara's right and Kankuro stood to his left. The people of the village had been in a state of disbelief for the past few weeks. They all knew how Gaara had been, but his change emanated from him. He was willing to do the most menial tasks to help the villagers. He kept himself composed almost at all times, but he did not hesitate to smile at a weeping girl as he helped her stand after falling. He visited every family that had lost a loved one in the invasion, and he paid a visit to every family that had lost a loved one in the invasion. The people did not overlook these things, and although a good number of them still harbored misgivings about the soon-to-be Kage, they were enthralled by their new leader, and they showed it today. Their cheers could be heard throughout the entire village, even at the periphery. It warms my heart to be accepted by you all, Gaara said, raising his hand once more for silence. It's time for everyone in the village to experience that emotion all night long. There will be a festival. It will start in a few short hours, so Sanagakure residents, get ready for a fantastic evening. The blonde Kunoichi protested vehemently, but Gaara thought it was a good idea because he knew how much Naruto loved ramen and wanted to show his appreciation for everything he had done for him. He also thought it gave him a good chance to be around the more common people of his village, which was an honor for him because some people could only afford a meal like this. Despite Temari's insistence that a new Kage should eat lunch at a finer establishment, Naruto was able to get his entire group to eat at a local ramen stand. Gaara may have been honored, but when the people saw their new Kage enter to eat here, they were stunned. Perhaps that would be an understatement, considering that some people stopped with chopsticks full of noodles right in front of their mouths when they saw Gaara. When the people in line hurried aside to make room for him, he gestured for them to go back to their places because he was not going to elevate himself above his people, which made all of the customers smile warmly as they gazed upon the lowly man who was now their Kage. Despite his efforts, a group of men from the front of the line approached him with numerous bowls of ramen in each of their arms, insisting that Gaara and his friends eat, since they had received plenty of extra. The puppet master looked to his younger brother and sighed when Gaara shook his head, but the day was far from over, and the festival was still looming by the end of lunch. Gaara had strengthened his ties with the village and knew the names of a few more people, but the festival was still a long way off, and Tamari had already made it clear to Shikamaru that they would be going on a date, and Naruto had done the same to Hinata. I am sorry Kankuro, I have other obligations. Naruto gave Kankuro a sideways elbow, saying, he means Matsuri. He groaned again now, saying, I know. With a flurry of colorful fireworks lighting up the sky, the festival got underway. The fun was about to start. Naruto took Hinata to the first gaming booth he came across, which was a kunai target game with a giant stuffed puppy as the prize for winning. Hinata, I'll win that for you. That's easier said than done, my friend with the blonde hair. The game booth operator interrupted. You have 3 chances to use a kunai to strike the target. The catch? It's going to be an emotional one. It can only be brought down by a direct hit. What say you? Would you like to give it a try? You wager. Naruto picked up 3 kunai and slammed the money on the table. Start. Perhaps a little nervous now, but Naruto threw his first kunai and it just missed, and the Uzumaki threw his second one and missed again, so perhaps he was a little nervous now, but he threw his third one true, striking the target right in the middle, and going right on through it. The target began to jump around erratically, and it was almost impossible to track where it would go next. That is, it would be impossible for a non-ninja. What a lousy child. That man was insane. My kunai passed through it with ease. Naruto's pride kept him from giving up, and after numerous attempts and a backstop full of kunai, he was a little more than irritated. The booth operator simply shrugged and asked if he wanted to go again. I don't understand, I feel like I always hit the mark. Hinata interrupted him as he was ready to deposit the money for a second attempt, saying, May I try, please, Naruto? He smiled as he gave the girl the money to play with. Hinata only picked up 1 kunai before activating her Byakugan, and it was exactly as she had imagined. The real Genjutsu was sitting motionless in the far corner, and she threw her kunai at it. Hinata, what are you doing? There's no place like that, and he was cut off by the sound of metal on metal and the buzzer that announced the winner. Well, it appears that we have a unique girl here. Most people never understand this. Naruto was furious now. What? It's cheating. I have very little knowledge of Genjutsu. Not my troublesome child. I appreciate your business. The blonde was about to lash out at the man, but when Hinata asked for one of the prizes, he took notice, reached for the one she indicated, and gave it to her. The orange puppy she was now holding had big blue eyes, and they left the booth together. Thank you, Naruto. The ease with which he had been duped still made Naruto angry. What are you thanking me for? The winner of the game is you. You don't get to be upset tonight, Hinata said, taking both of the dog's hands in hers and tucking him under her arm. We're here to enjoy ourselves. She didn't even stutter, Naruto said, grinning down at her soft face. They kept exploring the festival until they came across another game that caught their attention. Naruto was excited to go try it out because he saw people running around, ducking low, and blowing up into the air at strange angles while a single feather hung above their faces. The operator turned to address the next group after the round was finished, saying, the goal here is straightforward. The winner is the person who uses only their breath to keep the feather in the air the longest. Since he could eat so much, Naruto assumed that his stomach was large, which meant that he also likely had a lot of air in it. He did not consider the fact that stomach size has nothing to do with air capacity. As Kiba and Akamaru got closer to the same game, there was a joyful yipping behind them. Hey, do you have room for one more in this round? The operator led the dog ninja to a location near Naruto after giving him a brief explanation of the game. I'll win this easily because I beat, with a sneer, Naruto said. No way, I've got this one covered. When the game began, Naruto blew as hard as he could to get his feather up in the air. It turns out that he wasn't the only idiot who tried that tactic. Fortunately, he was quick enough to reach the spot where his feather drifted off to and managed to keep it up, but many of the civilians weren't. After about 30 seconds, all non-ninja were out, and after 10 more seconds, the ranks became even thinner, until soon, the only thing that Naruto and Kiba could see was each other continuing their battle. The dog ninja's lungs were beginning to burn, and he knew he couldn't keep it up. Wait a minute, burn. Naruto's feather exploded into flames as Kiba snapped his fingers at it, then let his own feather drop to the ground and inhaled deeply. It might have been worthwhile to train with Sumakina, he thought, before deciding it was time to boast. Looks like I beat you, Naruto. What the devil? At random, my feather caught fire. That is really unjust. Hard luck. That means I'm the winner, I suppose. With a smile on his face, Naruto said, Hey Kiba, you might want to look a little further down there. He gestured to a Hyuga who had her feather hovering inches from her mouth, almost motionless as she maintained it flawlessly. It was Kiba's turn to pout now. You must be joking. I was completely unaware that Hinata was involved. I wouldn't have even made an effort. Everything is done flawlessly by Hyugas. When the girl realized she was alone, she let her feather drop. With a stuffed animal now under each arm, Hinata walked with pride, followed by Naruto and Kiba, both of whom were upset about losing, Naruto, in particular, since it was the second time Hinata had outperformed him, and Kiba this time as well. He could accept his girlfriend beating him, but Kiba was a different matter. Following a brief countdown, the Konoha shinobi all met up with the Sand siblings and decided to try out the maze created by a group of Earth-style users. It was supposed to be a combination of race, intuition, and luck, with 4 starting points, 4 paths, and only one winner. Gaara and Matsuri took the first path, Naruto and Hinata took the second, Shikamaru and Temari took the third, and a not-so-happy pair of third wheels took the fourth. Taking Gaara's hand, Matsuri hurried in, bringing him along. "We must win, Gaara. So hurry up." "All right, I'll send my sand ahead to scout out the correct path," Gaara said with a genuine smile. After picking Hinata up bridal style, Naruto naturally ran into the maze, taking turns at random. "Slow down, Naruto. We have no idea where we're heading." Hinata might have focused more on the way Naruto held her if he had really taken things any slower, which would have caused her voice to stutter, but there was no time for that right now. Hinata cannot be stopped. Kiba must be defeated. They'll figure this out quickly between him and Akamaru. "You know, I could just use my Byakugan." Shikamaru began to stroll languidly through the labyrinth. What a both. In order to propel them forward, Temari grabbed the Nara, took out her fan, leapt on top of it alongside him, and created wind underneath it. "Aw man, why me? Shut it, Shika. We're leaving these brats in our dust." With amazing speed, the two of them sped ahead, gliding over the ground and around corners. The race doesn't matter to Kankuro at all. He was concerned about allowing Kiba to reach the end before he did in order to send his proxy one way while taking another. He used his puppetry skills additionally. Kiba and Akamaru parted ways and went their separate ways. They were using their sense of smell to detect the possibility of fresher air passing through the maze, which would signal a way out. Gaara quickly felt out the location of the exit by using all the sand in the area. He drew Matsuri close to him. "Gee Gaara," he said, "it's okay," as they were raised off the ground by a sand platform that appeared beneath them. Then they were off, heading quickly for the door. Matsuri moved closer to Gaara as they stood on the narrow platform. She pressed herself against his body and put her arms around him despite his lack of relationship knowledge. Gaara was fairly certain that this was an improvement over their previous situation. He turned to face the girl and gave her a hug in return, not that either of them would notice. His sand slowly came to a stop near the exit. Naruto gave himself a mental slap for not considering Hinata's Byakugan. She would prove to be more useful than he was. For the third time tonight, he was now searching his mind for a method to avoid coming across as a total idiot in front of Hinata. She would never consider that about him. "That's all right, Hinata. I was just going to use my shadow clones to find the exit." He formed the ram seal and put the Hyuga girl down. After speaking briefly with the boss, a dozen clones appeared and were on their way. One of them discovered the exit and returned to the original in just 1 minute. "Found it. Let's go." They both understood what Naruto was doing when he picked Hinata up again. Hinata's face flushed slightly, and Naruto's cheeks also blushed a little. Maybe we don't need to win this race?" It was clear what kind of predicament they were in when the stutter returned. The girl wrapped her arms around Naruto's neck as he drew her closer. Shikamaru and Temari never advanced very far in the race. Before one of them had been an instant dead end, they had only made a few turns. Unfortunately, they were traveling too quickly to stop and collided with the wall. They soon discovered that they were in a different kind of position. After they recovered with her hands by her sides, Temari lay on her back. Shikamaru's face was directly above hers as he sat on top of her. The fact that he was wedged between her legs would appear to be a very private moment to onlookers. The Nara was about to back away after they both froze for a moment, then he stopped. She softly whispered, "Shika." To him it was a private scene now. In the first minute of the race, Kiba had believed he had located the exit, but the fresh air he had detected came from the entrance. He eventually went in a circle and cursed when he got back to the starting point. The Inuzuka made the decision to simply sniff out Akamaru and go back to him. The exit was directly in front of him when he finally caught up to his dog. Unfortunately, a certain puppet master discovered the exit as well. After rounding a corner up ahead, Kiba was actually cursing now. He was determined not to let Kankuro win. He thought he would use the 2 weeks of training to his advantage, even though it was unlikely. Flaming Fang. A fire burned around Kiba as it spun into a drill. He bounded past Kankuro in order to avoid getting burned. The sand ninja had to duck as close to the ground as possible. Kiba then continued on the remaining distance to the exit. He quickly came to the conclusion that he had won because no one else had managed to escape their paths. "What the hell, dog boy? What? Were you trying to light me on fire?" Kiba scoffed. "Dang, should have thought about that when I passed you. That would have been a funny sight." The two began arguing for a while before Gaara and Matsuri moved out of their way. Kankuro looked at his sibling. Dude, we have been done for like 10 minutes. What took you so long? Then he looked at his brother twice. His hair appeared even wilder than usual, and his face was flushed. Next was Matsuri, who appeared to be completely engrossed in gazing up at Gaara the entire time. Kankuro let out a groan. Great, my little brother gets a girlfriend, and makes out for the first time before I do. Tamari and Shikamaru were the next to leave, and they appeared even more disorganized than the other two. Kankuro was now unsure of whether to feel disgusted, envious, or angry with his siblings. Kiba and the puppet master knew what was holding Naruto and Hinata back. Even though they hadn't yet appeared, they ultimately made the decision to go find a suitable location to witness the festival's grand finale. The night would end with a spectacular fireworks display. Everyone's favorite Uzumaki and his female counterpart staggered up to their group a few minutes before the show was scheduled to begin. Their faces were flushed, and they were both in a daze. Tamari poked a little fun at them. Looks like you two had fun. Both Naruto and Hinata simply exchanged a knowing glance and blushed more deeply. Instead of answering, the pair walked over to where Gaara and Matsuri were sitting and took a seat. Shortly after they settled in, the rockets began to fire. The rockets were still large enough to be entertaining even though the show started slowly. Then came bursts of blue and red, followed by explosions of purple and gold. Some actually went up spinning, while others had sparks in their tails. Launches became more frequent, and eventually they were launching dozens at once. The finale wasn't much further off. One vicious fire-style user and one enormous rocket received a little boost from the wind-style users. It was an amazing explosion that spread throughout the entire village, lighting it up with its blast. The blast was transformed into the Sanagakure symbol through chakra manipulation. Nobody in Gaara's group would be aware of that. The couples were too preoccupied with one another to pay attention at what was happening next to them. Kiba and Kankuro were both palming their faces. Even Akamaru whimpered a little and covered his eyes with his paw. What the hell is this? Samakina said icily. What, kid? I thought you would be excited about this. Gaara. How could you agree to this? He was immediately struck over the head by Matsuri. She turned toward the redhead and said, That's Lord K's cage to you now, isn't that right, my little sand bunny? Kiba suppressed any laughter with both hands. The laughter still came through even though it didn't work. However, the other groups also did. Gaara's face was palmed. I thought we agreed you would not call me that in public. Besides, the Shukaku is a raccoon, not a bunny. The girl sighed happily as she simply took his arm in hers. You're so cute when you're embarrassed. Kiba was well by now, and he gestured toward the flame Jonin. So you care to explain why he is coming with us? Gaara composed himself again. Samakina has been pleased with your progress. However, 2 weeks have not been enough time to get past anything more than the basics. He thinks you have talent, and coupled with your natural fire affinity, you can make a powerful flame user. When he approached me with the idea of taking you as a personal apprentice, he originally planned on you staying in Suna. However, the Hokage did not agree to that. To further strengthen our bonds with Konoha, and to please Samakina, I have permitted him to return to your village with you. Without a doubt, Kiba wanted to get stronger, but this guy's training was like suicide. Naruto raised his voice. Of course, you could refuse the first offer of friendship that the new K's cage has extended towards our village. Although, if I were in his position, I would take offense to that. Now Naruto smiled slyly at the dog end. And you would never get strong enough to beat me without some cool new training. He was a little alarmed by the first part of Naruto's speech, but the second part really got to him. It would be worth it to have even a remote chance of defeating Naruto. Hell yeah, I will take this offer. You are going down, Naruto. Samakina was grinning malevolently, and ominous shadowing appeared out of nowhere as he spread his arms. Flames engulfed him, just as they had when he first met Kiba. You will have to live through my training first, kid. Despite the heat from the fire surrounding the Jonin, Kiba became noticeably pale and felt a chill go down his spine. The others simply chuckled at the poor Inuzuka's fear. Gaara hesitated before saying, I will let the Hokage know that you have accepted my offer. Now there is one more thing to discuss. As you all know, the last Chunin exams could not be seen to completion. However, the next exam will be held in 5 months, and they will be here in Suna. I know that it is early, but I would like to personally extend an invitation to all of you to participate. Well, other than Shikamaru for obvious reasons. Gaara is now turning to address the Nara. Suna would like to extend to you a much more specific invitation. More of a task. Actually, we would deeply appreciate and be honored if you would help set up the exams. You would need to be here a month in advance, should you choose accept. Shikamaru let out a sigh. From a blonde kunoichi elbow to his side, he grunted, that sounds like a bother. I think I would rather stay in Konoha. Gaara smiled slightly and went on, I think that there are other parties involved who would like you to participate as well. Shikamaru muttered as she tried to cover up a slight flush. Troublesome woman. He received another elbow for his remark, which was not ignored. Shortly after they all got back to Konoha, Naruto found himself in a situation he had seen before. He had one of his clones take Sasuke to Fukasaku because he had to go on a mission that would require him to be gone for an indeterminate amount of time. It goes without saying that when Naruto went to pick up Uchiha, he would be furious. Perhaps I ought to just leave him there. I mean, 2 weeks have passed already. Given what I know about Granny Sage's cooking, I would argue that what he went through warrants murder my killing. He turned to his teammates who had just completed their report with the Hokage, realizing that simply abandoning the poor man at Mount Myoboku was not an option. Well guys, looks like this is the end for me. Shikamaru merely issued a sigh. What did you get yourself into this time, Naruto? Well, I kind of left Sasuke alone on a mountain with nothing to eat but bugs for the last few weeks. In fact, the Nara gave him a small smile. That would do it. This could prove quite troublesome for you, Naruto. After pouting for a while, Naruto had a bright idea and became animated. After creating his favorite seal, he and his clone teleported off. Naruto ended up outside Grandpa Sage's residence. Looking out the window, the blonde saw a very irate Sasuke consuming what appeared to be centipede soup. He didn't really want to face Sasuke, but he was left with no other option when his clone looked out the window and leaned too heavily on him. They both fell to the ground. Sasuke was already outside the door, staring down at Naruto with a look that could only be described as the wrath of hell. When he heard his voice, his clone gave him a look. After stabbing himself, the clone produced a kunai and declared, "Sorry boss, you're on your own." He looked up at the Uchiha, who was clenching his knuckles, and said, "Ah crap, I was going to send that clone in alone to deal with Sasuke. So, how was the food?" It was a really bad question choice. The Uzumaki was then beaten into submission by Sasuke. He turned to his hosts and left Naruto in an awkward pile. He looked down at Naruto and said, "I thank you for your hospitality that you have shown me these past few weeks. I am sure my friend here will not burden you with any further overnight stays." Despite his illness, Naruto gave a passionate nod. The raven-haired child realized he needed actual food. As soon as Naruto and Sasuke returned to the village, Sasuke made the decision to get Ichiraku's without inviting him in order to express his displeasure with Naruto. When he walked into the ramen shop, he was shocked to see a kunoichi with pink hair. "Sakura, what are you doing here? I thought you didn't really like ramen." The girl's face brightened as she turned around. "Sasuke, you're back," she exclaimed, blushing slightly from her excitement before responding to his query. "With you and Naruto being gone for a long time, things around here got a little boring. I found myself missing you guys, and being here reminds me my team. You know, it's a little odd. I don't particularly care for ramen either. However, having Naruto on our team forced us to eat here so much that it's a habit now. Maybe I should have let the idiot come with me." Naruto's back too. He sat down next to Sakura and ordered a bowl. "Yeah, but one told him not to come with me. Sorry, if I had known you would be here, I would have let him." He looked over and met her eyes after she had been staring at him for a while. Sakura blushed and looked down, a little embarrassed. Even Sasuke was astounded. His face started to get a little hotter as he looked at her, even though he would normally be overwhelmed by a girl's passion for him. However, perhaps it was best that I didn't bring him. No sleep for a Hokage in the future. Naruto was sitting in his apartment with a cup of instant ramen when someone knocked on his door. He walked over to open it, muttering to himself. The visitor opened the door for himself rather than waiting to be admitted. The toad Sanin in his doorway was deadpanned by Naruto. "You couldn't wait 5 more seconds for me to get to open it?" Surprisingly, Jiraiya was serious. "No, I couldn't. Now sit down, I have a lot to tell you about." Now that he was awake, Naruto paid close attention to everything Jiraiya had to say regarding the data he had acquired on the Akatsuki. "So what you're telling me is that we have less than 2 years before Konoha will be attacked. What's more, you believe that the whole organization will be coming at once for me. Seeing as I am the biggest threat, they are moving early to capture the other Jinchuriki faster than I originally anticipated." That pretty much sums it up, kid. If they all come here at once, it will be like dropping a paper bomb in a barrel of fish. You alone can't protect the whole village from that many S-class shinobi. "Are you sure that they have not yet captured the first Biju?" Jiraiya gave a nod. "Then I think it's time Gaara and I make some new friends." The Toad Sage smiled and leaned closer. "What exactly did you have in mind?" It was quite challenging to persuade Tsunade to allow him to leave the village until just before the Chunin exams. It had been nearly impossible to persuade Kakashi to still sign them up for it, even though the team refused to practice together before the test. But getting Sasuke to spend the next 5 months at Mount Myoboku was far more important than the 2 before it. "Hell no." Naruto sighed. He had his trump card, but he didn't think the man would accept it. "Alright Sasuke. but I am leaving the village. Until that time I guess we will just have to put your training on hold until after the Chunin exams. Sasuke became rigid. One thing he did not want was that he could not afford to take a break from his training, which was of the utmost importance. He palmed his face and moaned. The Uchiha could already taste the bugs in his mouth and said, "Okay, I'll stay there." From what Fukasaku said, "You might just get Senjutsu down by the time I get back. That is a big might, but if you give it your all, it could happen." You know Naruto, I saw Sakura last night, and she wasn't happy with us being gone for as long as we were. How do you think she will respond to finding out that we are going to both leave for this long to train? Do you think she will like that we mean to get stronger while she is left behind? Though he had already come up with a solution that she might agree to, Naruto shuddered a little at the thought of the suffering Sakura might cause him. She will be training too with her excellent chakra control. Granny has agreed to take her as an apprentice. She will keep Sakura so busy with training that she won't have time to miss us. Sasuke muttered, "That doesn't mean I won't miss her." Where did that originate? Hugh. What was that you just said, Sasuke? Nothing. He came up with a way to shift the conversation. Don't you think your girlfriend will be a little unhappy that you will be gone for that long? Naruto's expression dimmed. He was aware that this would make Hinata unhappy. Sad is a strong understatement. She would most likely start crying. I think I might want to figure out a gentle way to break this to her. You wanted to talk to me, Naruto. I'm leaving the village tomorrow, and I won't be back for the next 5 months. Hinata's eyes grew wide and began to well up with tears. Smooth, kid, smooth. That's breaking it to her, isn't it? I felt it would be best to be honest about it. To put it mildly, I'm amazed at how foolish you are, Naruto. Even after more than 13 years of being inside of you, you continue to amaze me with your lack of knowledge. What would you have done, then? Do you think I'm a love guru? Nope, you resemble a gigantic fox. How perceptive of you. Naruto, cried Hinata. She threw herself on top of him and clung to him. She was crying so hard that she could hardly speak. "Why? I don't want you to go for tea that long?" The girl buried her face in his chest and clung to him as if her life depended on it. To make sure no one else was observing, Naruto scanned the Hyuga compound. His daughter's outburst of emotion was the last thing he wanted Hiyashi to hear about. He teleported away after putting his arms around the upset girl. Hinata looked up, feeling the abrupt change in wind, elevation, and other factors. Where are we? Her emotions were still clearly choking her. When the blonde turned around, she saw the sun setting in the distance and the entire village glowing iridescently. I found that when the heart aches, this place always helps me find the peace that I need to ease the pain. Hinata forced a smile despite her emotions. It looks beautiful. Yes, you do. The Hyuga blushed slightly as she glanced up at Naruto. I was talking about the village, silly. As he attempted to play dumb, Naruto had a lighthearted smile on his face. Huh? What village? All I can see is you. Hinata's face darkened slightly more as she cradled into Naruto's arms. Did you mean it, Naruto? Well, of course I can see the village in the background. I was just saying that right now. You're all that matters to me. She met his glistening blue eyes directly. She stutteringly said, "That's not what I was talking about. I meant, for the second time, why you said, why you love me, do you?" She responded with a passionate kiss. The blissful moment passed far too quickly, but it lasted forever. "I love you, Hinata. As long as you wait for me, I promise I will come back to you." Naruto was standing in the Kage's office the following morning. The Flying Thunder God method his father used had its benefits in terms of travel, among many other areas. When the Hokage informed me that you would be here this morning to make a request, I thought it might be something personal. I thought that maybe it was something that only I could do. I did not expect this. Gaara, this is something that only you can do. I need help. Do you realize that I only just became Kage? Did you even pause to think about the Chunin exams that are to be held in Suna next? Have you even considered all that I must do as the new head of the village? I cannot just walk away from that. I know I'm asking a lot. No, you're asking infinitely more than just a lot. Just the same, you must realize that this is necessary. Naruto, I value your friendship immensely. I would not be where I am today without you, however. Then show me you value it. Look, don't you think that the others deserve what we have? We are not the only ones out there, you know. Gaara let out a sigh. I know where you are coming from, Naruto, and believe me, I want to help. However, there is just no way I can. Naruto struck the Kage's desk with a forceful blow. Yes, there is a way. You take off that hat, you put on your ninja gear, and you march out the front gates. You ask me to abandon my village? No, I ask you to help me save it? Even though Naruto was the person the new Kage trusted the most, this was not an easy task. You understand how upset this will make the council? They can cry me a river, build me a bridge, and then get over it. These matters are not that simple. The village cannot go for so long without a leader. Then appoint a temporary figurehead. How do you think the people will see a leader that leaves them, and puts forth a new face to take his place? They will see a man who is willing to do whatever is necessary to protect them. Furthermore, he will not replace you. No one could ever do that. Sometimes a situation can only be described by Shikamaru's words. This is troublesome. Things would get interesting in Suna with a very unhappy council, Baki appointed as a figurehead, and 2 Jinchuriki departing the village. So you want me to get the 3 tails, the 5 tails, and the 7 tails? Yeah, and I'll take the 8 tails first. It should be easy to get Octopops on our side. Why do you get the easy ones? For just that reason, I know them, so I can get them to join us more easily than you could. Octopops was a good friend, and with his help, getting that other Jinchuriki of his village will be a piece of cake. Utakata is a good guy who can see reason. And I've met him before after earning Son Goku's trust. I think I can make him see eye to eye with me again. I might be relying on relationships that don't exist in this time, but I think that they will come through just the same. Meanwhile, I am supposed to convince a Mizukage that I have never met before to join our side, travel to one of the least friendly villages, the Hidden Rock, and convince a guy that loathes humanity to come back to it. Then I have to deal with a tomboy with mood swings. Yup. Have fun with that. Naruto grinned and held up a V for victory before vanishing in a flash. Gaara's face was palmed. I might hate you by the end of this, Naruto. Gaara decided that it would be better to get the 7 tails first, despite the fact that his list of Jinchuriki to recruit was regrettable. The village of Waterfall included Fu. It would be the easiest because it was not one of the 5 great ones. Iwa's foreign policy was blatantly antagonistic. It was intimidating to think that he was expected to recruit a Mizukage. In addition, his knowledge of the hidden mist was extremely limited. Kiri would undoubtedly rank last on his list in light of that. Gaara only knew that Fu was from Takigakure, had blue hair and orange pupilless eyes, was a tomboy, had a volatile personality, and had the 7 tails sealed inside of her. Hidden Waterfall. The Sand Nin found the village surprisingly easily in less than 4 days. He got there. Gaara made the decision to shed the ninja attire because he was aware that he would stand out in a smaller village instead. He wore a pair of black pants and a simple blue shirt. However, he was still holding his gourd in place with his sash wrapped around him. At least it wasn't immediately apparent that he was a ninja, even though he wasn't exactly the most unobtrusive person. It was a simple place. Takigakure, they lacked checkpoints and walls, even though they were a ninja village. Although there were still guards on duty, nobody stopped to inquire about the newcomers' whereabouts. Gaara ended up overlooking a cliff at the edge of the village. A sizable waterfall cascaded down its side. He noticed a serene area when he looked back where he had come. Because the village was situated in a forest, the trees served as a natural wall separating it from the outside world. It was a barrier that gave them some privacy, but not enough to actually protect them from an attack. It was a quiet place, but it was noisy. The sound of running water was calming. Birdsong filled the forest, and the distant crash at the base of the falls was surprisingly quiet. It was just quiet enough that it wasn't annoying, but not so quiet that one couldn't hear it. It was a paradise of nature. So, what's a guy like you doing in a place like this? When Gaara turned to see who had spoken, he saw it was the girl he had been searching for. Nothing in particular. The young lady approached the stream and plunged her head straight into it. She shook her head to remove some of the water and pulled herself back up. Oh. Nothing gets you awake like a cold water bath with your face. I suppose you could be correct there. You say that you're not here for any real reason? I don't believe that for a second. This village is not exactly the easiest place to get to. There is forest all around for miles. You don't come here unless you have a purpose. My reasons are my own, and how long do those reasons keep you here? As long as is necessary. In that case, let's go get some lunch. The fact that the girl was being so amiable toward him still intrigued Gaara. She was definitely different from most girls, who wouldn't submerge their heads in water and shake them out like a dog. She seemed different because of that and the fact that she was now slurping her food at a ramen shop. So Mr. Mysterious, feel like talking yet? Not quite, although I do have an interest in you. I'm flattered, but I'm not a lesbo. Even Gaara's composed expression faltered. I am not a woman. Oh, could have fooled me. What reason could possibly bring you to draw the conclusion that I was not a man? 'Cause all I ever get are friggin' girls asking me out. The Sand Ninja had not anticipated the sudden outburst of anger, and to be honest, he was a little alarmed by her shift in attitude. I did not mean to upset you, and I was not asking for a date. I was simply saying that I found your persona interesting. The anger vanished as quickly as it appeared. Oh, a lighty then to bad. Now that I know you're a boy, you're kinda cute. Gaara reddened a little. So why is it asking you out made you think I was a girl? She actually knew why. Like I said, only girls ask me out. Hell, if I know why, never once has a guy popped that question until now. She was aware that she was a tomboy and that the guys and girls could be duped by the act she performed. The guys didn't ask her out for obvious reasons, which had the opposite effect on the girls. Perhaps it is your demeanor. You do not behave in the typical way a girl would? Well, I am not a typical girl. His eyes narrowed slightly as he realized that this might lead to something. Why are you not a typical girl? Other than your behavior, of course. She touched her stomach unconsciously and became enraged once more. Because F# you. That's why, she exclaimed before hurriedly leaving. The slight motion to her midsection was not missed by Gaara. He put some cash on the table for the meal and got up to leave. I guess I should go find her and apologize if I am to have any hope in this mission, he said. Naruto was in front of a temple outside the hidden cloud. I hope that Octopops is at home. Takigakure had the advantage of being a small village. Furthermore, if you were looking for a place to think, there was only one iconic location to visit. That location is where Gaara and Fu first meet. He located the girl near the waterfall. Sitting on a ledge, her chin was resting on her knees, and her legs were curled up to her chest. Her pants were getting wet beneath them, and tears were trickling down her cheeks. Gaara approached the girl and touched her shoulder. It didn't matter that he knew her name. You know, I treated you to lunch, and I never even got your name. She brushed his hand away gently. She couldn't bring herself to be more forceful because her body felt weak from her current emotional state. Go away. And leave you to be alone? No, I don't think I'll do that. I want to be alone. You should not feel like that. It is not good for someone to have to deal with their problems on their own. She still had a wet face and a weak voice. She began to choke on a sob as she said, I have always been left to deal with things on my own. You don't have to be alone. Reach out for others, and they can help you up. She sneered at the thought. Regardless of her feelings, if I reached out for help, they would stomp on my hand and let me fall. She abruptly turned her head and said, You are right. Her expression was a mixture of shock and rage. Most people usually respond to us with that kind of action. What do you mean us? I mean just that as you are not alone. She now allowed her rage to flare. How on earth was this guy aware of her? You have no idea what being alone is really like. My whole life I have been alone, an outcast of my own village. Gaara channeled some chakra and raised his shirt above his midsection, saying, As was I. Fu made an audible gasp when the seal materialized. Why, you have one inside you too? Yes. A moment ago you said, as was I. What did you mean by was? I was alone, but I am no longer. I have come here to show you that you do not have to be alone as well. At one point in my life, my whole village hated me, and my own father wanted me dead. When I had lost my way, and my light that guided my path went out, a hand reached into the darkness to pull me out. That hand belonged to another who was just like you and me. The difference was that he never gave up when his village turned their backs on him. He simply fought harder to make them see him for who he was. When they gave him hate, he showed them compassion. When he was left alone, he strived to befriend those who left him. After all his efforts, his village came around to see him. He never once gave up. However, he did not stop there. He did not just change the lives of his people, he changed mine. That is why I am here. If we stand by each other, we will not be alone. Fu became agitated and was unable to withstand a poke. Sounds like you have a fling with this guy. Gaara's face flushed slightly. He went on. Looks like you are back to normal. Anyway, it is nothing like that. He is just a great friend who saved my life. The waterfall ninja's eye glinted mischievously. Well, if you're not taken by this guy, then how about being taken by me? This was becoming a bit awkward now. Look, the thing is, I already have a very special girl waiting for me back home. The anger vanished as quickly as it appeared. Well, F# and you. How dare you lead a girl on like this without intention of following through? Suddenly, she stood up and pushed against Gaara. Besides, I'm sure no one would mind if you ditched her for me. I do not think that my people would like their cage being fickle with women. HOLYS# and %. You're the cage? Well, at least it's not shouting in anger. Yes, I am. She appeared to consider what he had said for a second before expressing her opinions. Wait a second. If you are the cage, then what the hell are you doing out here? As I already told you, I am here to show you that you are not alone. My friend and I are gathering our kind. We want to come together and show each other that we do not have to accept the hand that fate has dealt us. Come with me, leave this village, and be a part of something bigger. She began to playfully talk and cuddle up to Gaara once more. Well, if you want me that much. No. Without hesitation, she released him, folded her arms across her chest, and turned away. Fine. Then my answer is no as well. Fu. This is not some childish game. You have no idea how important it is that you join me. This is not just to bring you out of your loneliness. This is to save your life. She looked at the sand ninja with a suspicious expression now. How do you know my name? I never gave it to you. What do you mean, save my life? I knew only a few details about you before coming here, but as I said, I did come to have you join us. My friend and I are trying to save the lives of all the Jinchuriki. Save us from what? From behind them came a tall, blonde, somewhat feminine-looking man. From us. He had a burst of laughter. His hefty companion appeared beside him. Didera. Let's not keep our master waiting. I hate to keep people waiting. Why do you have to be so serious, Sasori, my man? Look, there are two Jinchuriki right in front of us. With my art, we can capture them both at once. Please, you call your pathetic explosions art? True art lasts forever? Art is an explosion. An explosion could never be as beautiful as my pea. A tremendous surge of power cut them off. Gaara turned back to face Fu and said, I assumed you disliked keeping your master waiting, so come on then. I will not let them harm you. Both Sasori and Didera were now staring at a changed Gaara. Now his entire body was glowing gold. The eyes, to only a moment ago, they had shown concern. They were now hateful diamonds. You will pay for what you once did, Didera. The blonde woman raised his hands. Now hold on a minute, kid. What do you have against me? Hey, fool ya fool, fool ya fool, what are you doing on the stairs to my training ground? Opening his eyes, Naruto said, ouch, my head, Octopops. What are you do? He realized abruptly what he had been going to do. Just before fainting, he leapt to his feet again. Hey, I need to talk to you. It's the only thing to do. It will be for the best. Now let me explain the rest. The boy can rhyme. I thought, speak your mind, I will see what I can find. Fool ya fool, fool ya fool. Instead of talking, Naruto clenched his fist. After examining the boy for a while, B extended his own hand to touch him. They bumped fists. A minute passed with no action, then B gave a head nod. Even after their conversation, he had a question. So I see now, I know what you have come to me. Would you care to tell the reason why you fell? Naruto's expression dimmed. Well, you see, flashback. Hope Octopops is home. The blonde fell before he could even climb the first step, but he never experienced the force of impact with the earth. He opened his eyes to find himself in a familiar setting. He heard the same voice once more. Why do you try, Naruto? I already told you that I will bring about the end once more. And I told you I won't let that happen. I have already set the forces in motion. There is nothing you can do to stop it. That would be impossible. You're not the first person to tell me something was impossible. I will prove you wrong, just like I have time and time before. Time? You really have no idea, do you? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Even you cannot fight time forever. Final flashback. I will do anything to make sure that it doesn't happen again. I need to stop it. So I see the two tails joining us as something that must be. B began to jump away, and Naruto did the same, and Anbu spotted the two of them before they had gone very far into the village. Hidden in the clouds after performing a shunshin, he disappeared in a whirlpool of lightning and wind. They arrived in front of an apartment complex in a short amount of time. Waiting for a specific person to return to their room did take some time. When that individual did come back, they encountered an unforeseen situation. An irate shout came from nearby as Naruto and B were just getting close to the women of interest. B. The Raikage extended his hand and placed his palm over the poor Jinchuriki's face. What are you doing with this hidden leaf trash? Naruto waved his hands in front of his friend, rushing to his aid. Lord Raikage, he is just trying to help me is all. A simply struck Naruto in the face with his free arm. B. How dare you do anything to help an enemy ninja? Brother, I see, cannot breathe. Let your hand take its L, leave. With mercy, the Raikage let his brother go, and he fell to the ground, struggling to breathe. Now that he was upright again, Naruto stood in front of the Raikage. Behind him, the ground was frightened by a huge trench that spanned 100 yards. Jeesh. I think you might have hurt the ground a little with that strike. As he turned to face the Leaf Ninja, it was genuinely taken aback. It felt miraculous that he appeared to be unharmed by his blow. What are you doing in my village, uninvited boy? I came to get the 2 and 8-tailed Jinchuriki to join me. It was a poor response. Naruto's face was struck by his fist. It only struck air. The blonde gave a backward tap on the shoulder. You know, hitting someone who is trying to help you is not a nice thing to do. Attempted to strike him once more but was only able to swipe through the air twice. From beneath his legs, Naruto yelled, Can we not do this? I don't want to fight. The Raikage's lightning armor exploded. This won't be a fight, I'll crush you. A's foot fell on Naruto with lightning speed, but it only sank into the ground. You won't be able to hit me, so can we not waste time here please? How dare you insult me? I am the fastest ninja alive. The Raikage repeatedly struck out at Naruto, but each time he vanished. Are you sure you're faster than the yellow flash of Konoha? His fist was inches from the blonde's face as he froze in mid-strike. The yellow flash is dead. He has been dead for over 13 years. Naruto extended his arm to touch A's hand in an instant. They were both gone. They were standing a moment later, looking out over Konoha from the top of the Hokage monument. A's jaw literally fell open as he took in the scene. Then they disappeared after Naruto seized him once more. The next thing they knew, B and Yugito were standing beside them. My father was the first one to ever master the jutsu. I am the second. What are you doing here, miniature yellow flash? Hey, I am not that short. I get taller in a few years. At that, the Raikage arched an eyebrow. You get taller in a few years? Now Naruto stammered. Well, you know L like I have not hit my growth spurt why yet. Everyone in the room was taken aback when it burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. The kid can't accept being short. Brother, enough about the boy's height. All that matters is his might. A gave his brother a stern look. B became rigid. So will you answer my question? I already told you. I am here for B and Yugito. We are all Jinchuriki and I want to bring them under protection. Up until now, Yugito had remained silent. Protection from what? Naruto gave the Raikage a look. Don't you think there is a certain organization that you should inform her about? That is none of her concern. They have not done anything more than look into the tailed beast. They are no threat to the village hidden in the clouds. Brother, the boy found me, and I have seen what is to be. You need to trust him. He does not speak on a whim. B's face was once again clenched by his hand. B. Kakuzu, this could be more trouble than what we came here for. No, this is just what we needed. We can take out 3 Jinchuriki at once. Our reward will be far greater than the other members if we bring them in. Is that all you ever think about? Money and stuff? Our task was to have each of us gather a Jinchuriki. The bounty for an extra one will be worth the trouble. Ah. Jashin is going to be totally pissed that I have to fight 3 people and not kill them. I need to pray. Well, hurry up and do it then. The moment that they are alone, we strike. Hey Master Sasori, looks like I got the one tail. My art will make short work of him, and you can take care that guy over there, Fu replied. Everyone could sense the girl's spike in murderous intent. I'm not a boy, you gay-ass looking cross-dresser. Forget it, Sandboy, this guy is mine. Hey, I'm in the same robes as everyone else in my organization. How is that I'm crusty? In an instant, Fu delivered a double flying kick to the rock nin's face with unexpected dexterity. Deidara rolled back to his feet after firing a considerable distance away and inserted his hands into the pouches on his hips. All right, if that's how you want to play. He threw 6 clay birds at her with his left hand, and they flew straight at her. He made an owl with his other hand and tossed it to the ground. He jumped on it and flew away as it swiftly grew to monstrous proportions. Fu was caught off guard when, after dodging the barrage of birds, they suddenly turned to attack her again. She soon had to avoid them by leaping, ducking, and dodging. Deidara was in the air above, his hands in his pouches, while she was busy. He said, let's see how she deals with some C2 inches. Dozens of tiny, spherical creatures emerged from his palms. He let them fall in the direction Fu was going. It was difficult, but she was able to keep the birds away from her. Fu repeatedly leapt back to get away from them. Then, from behind her, she experienced a chakra surge. She was already in midair and was unable to avoid the many luminous areas on the ground where she would soon touch down. Art is an explosion. Almost immediately after his battle started, Sasori's heavy outer puppet was destroyed. He threw his poisoned tail at Gaara, but it was snagged by the glowing sand of the Jinchuriki. Then it was overtaken by the sand as it swiftly spread over his puppet's body. He was restrained and unable to jump away. Then it was done. He was reduced to a heap of rubble by Gaara's sand. A young person with red hair emerged from the now demolished outer shell. I hate to keep people waiting, so I will have to go all out against you to end this quickly. Sasori produced a scroll with a 3 on it. You managed to defeat Hiriko with ease. The scroll burst into smoke, revealing a dark-looking puppet wearing a big fur coat. Let's see who is stronger, the 3rd cage, or the 5th. The puppet was surrounded by a wave of iron sand. I made this puppet from the 3rd's corpse, and as a result, I have access to his Kekkei Gengai. I am quite familiar with the 3rd's techniques. He was once considered the most powerful cage our village ever had. Sasori sent the wave that crashed into Gaara, asking, was? I have taken his place. The iron sand came to a stop as a wall of glowing sand erupted in front of Gaara. While your iron may be more dense than my sand, it will not be able to overpower it. And why is that? My sand is saturated in Biju chakra now, face the full power of the one tail. The iron wave was pushed back toward the Sasori by the glowing sand of Gaara on its way to crush the Akatsuki member. It swept up the cage puppet. When he leapt back, he was struck by a wall of sand that had already risen from behind. You won't win that easy. I hate to keep people waiting, so I'll step up my game. From glowing blue barriers, Sasori's forearms spread out in 4 different directions as waves of energy entered his arms from the surrounding sand. They began to glow even brighter around him. The sand turned back to its typical hue and dropped dead to the ground. Then a fist, the red-headed puppet's face cracked. Do not think my sand is my only weapon. Naruto taught me that I need to rely on myself as well. Then a barrage, a kick, another punch. Sasori did his best to retaliate, but the attack persisted. Every hit cracked where it hit. Sasori used his 100 puppets as a diversion to make a quick tactical retreat because he had no time to think, much less effectively defend himself. Deidara grinned as she peered down at the rising smoke clouds. I would have liked to use more of my art, but I live for the moment, and the moment was good. He then felt that he was struck by a tremendous surge of heat and pressure. Arg! Fu flew up to Deidara, now glowing in a body of chakra. Deidara felt the weight of the powerful chakra. What the hell? Wearing a 7 tails cloak, Fu pierced Deidara's mount and narrowly avoided severing the crossdresser's gut. The owl burst into emptiness as she reached the other side. Without his mount to support him, Deidara started to fall to the ground. He started shaping more clay, but his assailant quickly caught up with him. Her eyes lacked sanity and were filled with fury when the uncontrollable Gur kicked him in the side. The chakra burned everything it came into contact with. He would not be safe on the ground, and Fu was waiting for him. When he got close, Deidara closed his eyes and waited anxiously for the blow of a fist that was already extended. He had stopped falling. Sasori, my man, he exclaimed as one of his partner's puppets grabbed hold of him and dragged him back. What are you doing, Sasori? The fight is the other direction. He dragged Deidara to his side and then released him from his puppet. To continue this battle would be unwise. We cannot win. Arg! This isn't art at all, Master Sasori. A huge cloud of smoke rose from his puppet body as he said, now's not the time. The 2 Rouge Nin were already vanishing in the distance on one of Deidara's other mounts when the smoke cleared. A wall of sand blocked Fu's path as she attempted to pursue her blonde target. She howled angrily as she turned to face her new foe. The sand that was now covering her held her in place as she hurried Gaara. The girl struggled violently as her chakra surged up even more. You have no control over your Buji chakra. If I let this continue, you will only get yourself hurt. Fu, you need to calm down. We won already. Gaara stepped forward and put his chakra-shrouded hands on her shoulders, saying, Fu, listen to me, it's okay now. He was shielded from its fierce blazing by his own golden chakra. He spoke in a soft, soothing tone. Let me help you, I am your friend, Fu. She heard his soft voice deep within her consciousness. His remarks became ingrained. Her body was once again under the control of her mind as the chakra gradually began to diminish. Her body was damaged by her own chakra, and her voice was tremulous. Friend? How could we be friends? Come with me, Fu, I'll show you that you have lots of friends waiting to meet you. You don't have to be alone anymore. B's training temple was the gathering place for Yugito, B, and Naruto. A half-dozen Anbu had been stationed by the Raikage to keep watch and make sure the troublemakers didn't try to flee. He had more than enough reason to have guards on duty because of the other 2, not because he didn't trust Yugito. Yugito maintained her composure, but it was clear from her expression that she was furious. You're stressing my relations with my village. You shouldn't even be here. As though to defend himself, Naruto raised his hands. Now hold on. This is hardly my fault. That old man is just stubborn. I really am here to help. You call this help? I've always figuratively been a prisoner in my own village, but now I literally am. I doubt the Raikage will even let me leave the village anymore because of you. Don't be so harsh on the boy. He doesn't view you as a toy. He is here to help us all in our future. There's going to be a brawl. Yugito gazed at the host of the 8 tails and deadpanned. You really don't have to rhyme with everything you say. A muffled scream from outside cut off any more discussion, and the clanging of metal began to reverberate throughout the otherwise quiet space. The 3 Jinchuriki made their way to the temple's entrance. It was already a bloodbath outside. The ground was grotesquely colored by 5 Anbu corpses. Just now, a 6th had fallen. Clutching his heart, Hidan, who had black skin and white bone-like symbols on it, sat in his demonic circle. He was piercing his own heart with his spear. Jashin might just forgive me for not killing you 3 with these sacrifices. Yugito took a step forward. Who the hell are you? Black tentacles swung out at her from an invisible place, and B and Naruto pulled her back at the same time. The girl was shoved behind Naruto. "This is dangerous for you, Yugito, let me and B handle it." "Like hell, I'm just going to sit here doing nothing." B touched Naruto on the shoulder. "Yugito can hold her own in a fight, let's let her help, alright." Naruto gave him a thumbs up and grinned. "Alright Octopops, you got it, you and Yugito can take Hidan, make sure you don't let him get any of your DNA." Naruto burst into a cloak of Nine Tails chakra as he was saying that a tiny Rasen Shuriken was created by an arm of chakra, and it instantly thrust itself into another flurry of tentacles. A dust storm was sparked by the wind created by the jutsu. Naruto advanced with his attack. As the tentacles were torn apart, they retreated from their imminent death before he could get to the origin of the tendrils. Kakuzu emerged from his hiding place in the shadows. "I can't reconnect my tendrils, you just attacked that jutsu, seems like it may pose a threat. You were foolish to reveal something like that already, you will not get a second chance to use it." Naruto teleported behind his adversary and launched another Rasen Shuriken in Kakuzu's direction, saying, "We will see about that." The waterfall nin was quick-witted. He had split his body in preparation for a blow. The instant Naruto vanished, nothing more than air carried Naruto's attack. Naruto's limbs were seized by the slashing tendrils. Kakuzu placed his face in front of Naruto and used his hands to make a seal. From his mouth came a tiny ball of fire that struck the Nine Tails. It burst into a tremendous explosion. However, there was a problem. Naruto had already exploded in smoke prior to the attack's secondary effect. A third Rasen Shuriken severed Kakazu's right arm as he ducked to the side. As the firestorm grew, he struck out with his left arm, piercing the back of another clone with his outstretched tendrils. "He is attacking me directly with clones. He must be lodging in a secure location." Kakazu's gaze darted around the room from behind a nearby boulder. Another dozen Narutos appeared there. 4 masked creatures burst out of Kakuzu, then split apart before encroaching on the boulder, causing his back to bulge in strange ways. The main body of Kakazu was being attacked by the clones. He started eliminating clones one by one with his speed and tendrils, until there were just 3 remaining. The encounter with the real Naruto had begun. As evidenced by the explosion and flying debris, the 4 masked creatures had the Nine Tails encircled, and the boulder had been completely destroyed. The ugly black creatures were quickly ensnared by the 4 arms of chakra, which then used their own lightning, wind, fire, and earth attacks to unleash their wrath on him. Around him, Kakuzu aimed 3 tendrils at the 3 clones. Before the tendrils killed them, they all hurled a flurry of kunai at him with the exception of one. All of the kunai vanished along with the clones. Naruto was defeated by the 4 black monsters' strong blows only. The Naruto puffed out of existence instead of getting hurt. Kakuzu had already struck, merely deflecting the approaching kunai. What a waste, if the real Nine Tails wasn't there. After making contact with him, the lone kunai that had not vanished burst into a cloud of smoke. Another Rasen Shuriken was stabbed into Kakuzu's heart by a recently revealed Naruto in a flash. His beast with the lightning release mask was there. Kakuzu was only spared because of its amazing speed. The mask, the heart, and the entire beast were destroyed by Naruto's attack. Arg. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get good hearts? Now I have to get a new one. You won't be getting any new hearts, you're finished. Beneath the 3 remaining beasts, 3 tiny shadows grew larger and larger. Kakuzu was thrown a single kunai by Naruto just as the beasts were about to see 3 Narutos descending on them with Rasen Shurikens in hand. The rush of wind and pressure caught their attention. Above them they leapt to the side. There were more than 3 Narutos, though on the back of every clone was another with their strong jutsus in hand. The clones launched themselves at the fleeing animals, using the ones behind them as a launching pad. Since that is the authentic one, this kunai is simply the invisible field of wind. Chakra covering the blade was invisible to Kakazu. It sliced through his tendrils with ease. The targets were completely destroyed by the Rasen Shurikens. An explosion of energy wiped out the masks, the hearts, and the tendrils. Through whatever defense Kakazu could muster, the lone kunai proceeded on its course. The blade pierced his heart and would not stop. Kakazu collapsed, saying, "So, you were a worthy opponent, you win." "Damn it." Hidan gasped in an attempt to match B's barrage of assaults. The assault of 8 blades was repelled by his scythe barley. B kept spinning quickly and as if at random, with all of his blades jutting out in strange directions. His body resembled a porcupine. "The blades on your scythe only add up to 3, that will never beat me." Yugito threw a huge ball of fire at him, saying, "Don't forget about me." Hidan leapt with great force into the air. B was waiting there already. He dismembered Hidan completely with lightning speed. Hidan's head, torso, arms, and legs fell to the floor. Hidan appeared enraged. "Well shit, Kakazu," he said, turning to face his pal. Kakazu fell to the ground, face down, as the kunai pierced his heart. "Fuck man. Naruto approached Kakazu's corpse. A Rasen Shuriken was charged by a chakra arm that emerged from his back. I suppose I should tell you that I can sense chakra. I know you're not dead. You moved your heart to a different part of your body. Kakazu quickly regained his footing and sidestepped the assault. He reached out and grabbed Hidan with his tendrils. He stitched the man back together and started to run. We will capture them later, but we need a new plan for now. Jashin is gonna be so pissed. B approached Naruto. Shouldn't we go after tendrils and death guy? If they get away, who knows how many may die. He then turned to face Naruto. He was panting heavily and perspiring. I'm sorry Octopops, I can't. I used too much chakra. I can barely stand right now. I don't know why, but when I passed out earlier, it took most of my chakra away. I used a lot between teleporting, the Raikage and all those Rasen Shurikens too. I hate to admit it, but I'm spent. Naruto was placed across B's back. Let's run from my brother, eh? We can still take the day. He began to leap away. Yugito. Come on, my brother's men will be here before long. She turned her gaze toward the village. Her foot was stamped. Arg. Fine, she bellowed as she pursued them. Pain's gaze grew strained. So what you are telling me is that you have failed? Nervously, Deidara shuffled. Tell him it wasn't like that, Master Sasori. Sasori peered around the shadowy cavern where he and Deidara were hiding. The space was filled with the projections of the other Akatsuki members. Sasori stared silently at the shapes of Kakazu and Hidan before speaking. I am not one for excuses, but something is definitely not right surrounding the nature of our missions. Each of us should be more than capable of handling a tailed beast. Yet we were overwhelmed by our opponents. This strength of theirs seemingly has come from nowhere. But more than that, the one fighting Kakazu knew exactly what his powers were, his every ability and weaknesses. That is inexplicable. And in my fight, I was overwhelmed by the one tails, yes, but it wasn't just that. I did get the feeling he already knew my power as well. Nothing I did surprised him, not even using the body of the previous Kazekage. There are too many variables for this situation to be natural. Pain was not happy. So you are saying that they knew the impossible, so what are you suggesting? Sasori was direct. A traitor. Line break. Gaara and Fu were now resting in the opening of a forest, far from the waterfall village. It was a smile of bittersweetness. Fu said, this Naruto sounds a lot stronger than I could ever be. All three of us went through some tough times, but him, you say he could stay positive even with the way he was treated? I fall far short of that. I had even started to resent this world for dealing me this hand. She felt the seal against her stomach. I'm so weak. I don't think you are weak, Fu. We are all strong, just in different ways. Naruto's strength comes from his heart. He has the power to change people, to help them find their strength. That's the only reason I am even here now. He glanced at Fu, and because of him, I am able to meet you here now, and I promise I can help you find your strength too. Leaning close to him, she whispered while grinning wryly, what if I want you to be my strength? Without hesitation, Gaara moved her away in an instant as his sand created a platform beneath Fu. No. Fu raised her hands in a mocking gesture of pain, so cruel to such a beautiful lady. Already, the sun was starting to set lower in the sky. We should move, we have a lot of ground to cover still. Fu sulked to herself. Can't even play along a little, can you? You're no fun. They started toward the village that was obscured by the fog. Break-in line. Yugito was sitting next to Naruto, who was sleeping on a bed, and she was holding a moist cloth to his head. There were no luxuries in the tiny room. It belonged to a dilapidated inn located roughly midway between the villages of Cloud and Rock. The door to their room suddenly flew open, and B made a big show of coming in as usual. How's Naruto's recovery coming? It won't be long before we have to start running. Yugito was obviously irritated but also worried. Not well, he used almost everything in that last fight. He must be some kind of idiot to go all out like that. Be followed by a rap about Naruto being bold despite being foolish. Under her breath, Yugito said, just like someone else in this room. She inhaled deeply and returned her attention to the task at hand. B, how long do we have? B's expression darkened once more. We have 2 hours at best. That's all Naruto will get to rest. Yugito tightened her jaw. That's not enough time. Can't we do something? B grinned and started to leave again. After that, Yugito shouted, wait, no. That's not what I meant. B continued to move. Naruto will heal fast. I will make sure our time lasts. Mischief is my middle name. If I can't hold off a few tracking nin, then I'd be lame. Line break. Pain examined the room's projections. I agree. The other participants started looking around with suspicion. Hidan was indicated by Deidara. I bet it was that religious freak. Hidan returned the scream. What was that asshole? I don't want to hear that shit from a cross-dressing faggot. Deidara was incensed. What did you call me? I said, cross-dressing F. He was interrupted by pain. Silence. He gestured to them both. He turned to Itachi and said, we need to approach this situation logically. Random accusations will get us nowhere. What do you think we should do, Itachi? I would suggest asking the most shrewd and astute of us. Itachi's face revealed nothing of the secret channel of communication he had developed with Jiraiya. They had met multiple times by this point, and Jiraiya had told him nearly everything about Naruto in turn. He had been keeping Jiraiya updated on the Akatsuki's activities, but he didn't need to tell him about their powers because Naruto had already done so now. However, Itachi was in a tight spot. His objective was to destroy the Akatsuki, but a mistake could result in his death, and the Akatsuki could move without being watched. I have to give them a good response. We won't be able to weed out a traitor so simply, the Uchiha said, closing his eyes for a moment and pressing his fingers to his forehead. I don't see why they should be abandoned now. If they have managed to evade detection for this long, we should alter our plan and take immediate action if everything about us, including our plans, has been revealed. Pain said again. That's right. He held up his hands and said, we meet outside Konoha in one day. We act faster than the traitor can react. We're going to totally destroy it. The house where Itachi and Kisame had met was in the middle of a small, deserted town, and most of the houses were in ruins from looters and had not been maintained for months. As he spoke, Kisame took a step forward and said, I didn't think Pain would suddenly force the tailed beasts to give up their freedom. We must now travel to your hometown. We're in the middle of Earth country, so it will be difficult to travel this far in a single day. In its typical monotone, Itachi said, you won't have to travel that far. Kisame looked curiously at his partner, but it was too late when he finally caught sight of the Mangekyo. His body fell in an instant, and he was dead before he even touched the ground, while his mind went through an eternity of pain. The Uchiha approached his ex-partner, closed his wide-open eyes, and said, for what it's worth, I loved having you as a partner, but now is the moment to safeguard my values. After wiping the blood from his eye and bowing to the deceased nin in front of him, he quickly started toward Konoha. This emptiness was something Naruto had never encountered before. It was more than just a feeling of seeing nothing. It was a material substance that was almost real enough to touch, smell, hear, and taste. A recognizable voice emerged from this emptiness and said, the moment is near. The root is self-correcting. Everything that was will return. Naruto was startled out of his reverie by the words and yelled back into space, what the hell are you talking about? All of your efforts were in vain. I've put things in motion to restore the world to its proper state. That's bullshit, Naruto said, pointing out into space. I promised to make a difference in this world. The vacuum chuckled, and you have thrown away your opportunity by incapacitating yourself, and now I have capitalized on it. Naruto was perplexed and furious. Took advantage of it? Naruto's mind started to fill with images of his village, including the Hokage, Sakura, Tenten, Lee, and others. Then the scene changed, and he saw something that made his heart race. 3 figures in dark cloaks with red clouds on them were gathered close by. Still more images appeared, showing several more cloaked figures approaching the group that had already assembled. Panic was barely audible in Naruto's voice. What is this? What is this? What in the world is going on? Naruto received one last message before the emptiness started to disappear. You are not the only one who can alter this world. Ignoring the welt on her left arm from when Naruto had slashed out while he was sleeping, Yugito was working feverishly to try to control the fever that had suddenly erupted on Naruto. What is going on with you right now? She asked, dipping her cloth in cool water once more before placing it on Naruto's head. Tsunade was busy with a mountain of paperwork and the sun was well on its way to setting for the day when a black crow landed on her open window. She looked into its eyes and saw a Sharingan, and then she fell to the ground. Shizune ran over and attempted to lift the Hokage, but she was already conscious again. Lady Tsunade. What took place? She brushed Shizune aside and got to her feet, saying, I don't have time to explain everything. We must immediately evacuate all civilians because the Akatsuki are about to launch a full-scale attack. She started to hurry out the door. She was chased by Shizune, who exclaimed, where are you going? Are you saying that we are going to be attacked? I'm going to get all of our ninjas ready for battle. According to Itachi himself, the Akatsuki plan to destroy us tomorrow. Shizune was left stunned and said, tomorrow? That's not enough time. Before leaving to organize a full-scale evacuation of the villagers, Shizune wanted to ask more questions, but Tsunade had already hurried out the door to the building and jumped away. As she hurried through the village, Tsunade was lost in her own world. She had already discovered Kakashi and Guy engaged in a competition, and she had instructed them to gather all of the Jonin in the village. What can we do? Tsunade's mind was racing. Jiraiya is out of town, We don't have all of our best ninja here at the moment, and we have no way of getting in touch with Naruto. 2 squads of our best Hyuga are out on a high-profile tracking mission. Shikaku, Shoza, and Inochi are on a diplomatic mission to Iwa, and Asuma is in Suna with Chogi and Ino to assist Shikamaru. Damn it. We must call Suna for assistance, but they won't arrive in time. What are we going to do? The village was more crowded than ever before, and by midnight, the majority of the civilians had been led deep into the Hokage monument, where they were in a panic. Unable to take any personal belongings or even food. The situation was difficult for Shizune and her followers to manage, and the children were hungry and afraid. Things were much worse down in the village Bello, where all of the ninja who could fight were gathered to fight. Only about a quarter of the village's nin were actually present. Tsunade had become bold after Naruto's power was revealed and how much he had already changed things, sending more ninja on missions than ever before to further increase the village's prosperity. But now it was coming back to haunt them more than ever. Becoming a ninja meant that each person was willing to sacrifice themselves to protect Konoha, but that didn't mean they weren't afraid, especially the new genin. Sakura placed a firm hand on the girl's shoulder and leaned down to console the girl who was on the verge of losing it. Hey, what is causing you such anxiety? We can't win like this, the blonde girl said, trying her hardest not to cry. What are you saying? We will win, of course. So what caused the Hokage's pale appearance? She was extremely anxious, and there aren't many ninjas in the village. Sakura gave the girl a smile and said, the Hokage is responsible for worrying about things. Avoid letting it affect you. Anything our adversaries can throw at us, we will be more than capable of handling. We are, after all, ninjas. The girl straightened her headband and sniffed a little. You mean it? Can we win? Obviously. Sakura was scared even as she continued to smile and gave the girl her blessing. Naruto had shown her exactly what the Akatsuki were capable of, and she didn't know if they could defeat monsters like them or even repel them long enough for assistance to come. She hid her shaking hands behind her back, barely able to contain her tears. Naruto, Sasuke, where are you guys when we need you? As dawn started to creep across the land, the night came to an end. A few miles from the walls of Konoha, 9 figures with red clouds on their cloaks gathered. Zetsu, Deidara, Hidan, Itachi, Kakuzu, Konan, Pain, Sasori, and a man wearing an orange swirl mask. 2 more snake-like figures joined Akatsuki's ranks. What the hell are they doing here? Deidara said, turning to Pain. He gestured toward Kabuto and Orochimaru. Pain turned his attention away from him and toward Itachi. Where is Kisame? The attack must start as soon as possible. Why has he vanished? Pain, who walked out in front of the group and stood between them and Konoha, was already aware that Itachi knew the answer. Pain extended his hand and said, so you have chosen. He was about to strike, but was stopped by a hand. I'll handle this myself, said the man wearing the swirl mask, removing his mask with his free hand. One Sharingan stared back at the Itachi. The rest of you begin the attack immediately. The others hurried ahead. Itachi dared not look at the adversary in front of him. This will have to be good enough. I have to keep him here at the very least. Please bring everyone. Naruto, please make it. Gaara and Fu saw a lone crow land in front of them. Deep in Gaara's eyes, its Sharingan began. To help Konoha, Shikamaru and Temari were busy gathering as many ninja as the village could spare. They were on the verge of departing. After gazing into the crow's eyes, Jiraiya recovered from the shock of what he had just witnessed. Fukasaku materialized in front of him as he formed a seal. We are out of time. Please tell me he is ready. Fukasaku grinned with the eyehole in his mask pierced by the red glow of his Sharingan. The man wearing the swirl mask turned to face Itachi. Do you have anything to say before you die? Suddenly, Itachi's right eye grew wide. Amaterasu. Behind the man in the mask, the woods were charred by black flames. The area's trees were felled by the fierce fire, and smoke rose into the sky. The target started to move in Itachi's direction. He extended his hand to touch Itachi, but he did not back down. You can't beat me. You made the wrong choice, Itachi. His hand hesitated, and then he burst out laughing. You really think a cheap trick like this would work against me? The man in the mask remained where he had been when they had first looked at each other. Behind him, the woods remained intact. Itachi's kick from behind went through him without causing any harm, and he remained still. The man reached out and touched Itachi. As soon as he passed completely, they were dragged into a new world in an instant. The dimension's horizon was covered in white space. There was nothing as far as the eye could see. As the swirl-masked man turned to face Itachi, laughter erupted in the silence. I have won. Foolish. The reply from Itachi. All of a sudden, his body started to glow and smoke. The shape started to revert to its original state. Paper bombs, thousands of them. Shit. The man in the mask started to twirl. He was staring into Itachi's face as his body returned to the normal world. Once more, Itachi's right eye was agape, Amaterasu. There was no time for him to duck with the impending explosion. He was unable to return to the other dimension. Damn it. His body was engulfed in black flames. His body was consumed by searing heat. His flesh and clothing were burned away as the flames grew stronger. Itachi turned away with a sigh of relief. I have other matters to attend to now. Itachi didn't even feel the pain until he heard the sound of steel piercing flesh. Reaching for the blade close to his left shoulder blade was difficult for him. He located the handle, extracted the kunai, and turned to confront his assailant. The man wearing the swirl mask was completely clothed. There was no indication that he had ever come into contact with flames. The hole where his Sharingan should be was the only thing that was different about him. The eye was shut. He reached for his mask and took it off, exposing a disfigured right side of his face. If I could have seen you, that would have been the end of your life, but it seems I missed any of your vitals in my blindness. However, he still had an eye on his left side. He threw it aside and said, I guess I can't fight with this mask on anymore. He started to form seals and said, to think you would force me to use Izanagi so easily. You will pay for making me lose my Sharingan. Itachi's wound was still gushing blood, but he didn't have time or means to tend to it. He quickly created the same seals as his rival. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Flame and a tremendously strong chakra surge clashed. Trees, rock, and ground were all blown to pieces by the ensuing explosion. Within an eighth of a mile, everything was reduced to a barren wasteland. The two men who stood in the middle of it took off their red cloud cloaks. Red flames danced along their edges, slowly eating up the fabric. Itachi's eyes narrowed as he attempted to focus his hazy thoughts. Before I pass out, I must beat him up. There were numerous cloaked figures in front of Konoha's front gate. The gate was guarded by a group of leaf nin not far ahead. Despite his fear, one ninja stepped forward and called out to the Akatsuki members, if you don't want to experience a world of pain, then run away now. Emotionlessly, purple eyes with seemingly endless rings in them watched the group. He held up his hand in front of him and asked, what do you know of pain? Let me show you true pain. The group of ninja were blown away by a wave of force that smashed into them. The front gates were completely destroyed by the onslaught. There were ninja bodies all over the place. All of them were bloodied and broken. Standing just inside the opening where the gates once stood, a green spandex-clad ninja watched the carnage. Thank you for your sacrifice, comrades. I will not let the loss of your lives be in vain. He raised his voice. Sixth gate, gate of joy. Open. After a moment, his body was gone. Subsequently, Guy's fist struck the blocking figure of another pain, who had seemingly appeared out of nowhere and caught the blow to the head. The new pain was launched into the air when his arms broke. Pain didn't move, so that attack was not a jutsu. Interesting. Suddenly, four more pains appeared. The leader turned to face the other members of Akatsuki. I will deal with him. Proceed with destroying Konoha. The Akatsuki started running in the direction of the village's entrance. Guy shouted. His words were, like I would let that happen. And he ran to the closest enemy. Universal pull. Guy discovered that his body was being pulled in the wrong direction. As he got closer to Pain, he noticed that Pain was walking shirtless in front of him. A blade that resembled a metal saw was prepared to skewer him in midair. He turned and readied himself for a blow. Morning Peacock. Guy launched a barrage of blows that set the air on fire just before his body was punctured. Its body was shattered with every blow as the attacks crashed into the path of Pain. It was already reduced to scarp in the half-second it took for Guy's body to get there. Guy sped toward the head, ready to attack, and Pain's eyes widened. A centipede was in front of Pain when a cloud of smoke suddenly materialized, blocking the blow. The summoned creature was instantly displaced by the incredibly strong blow. A rhino roared through the area where Guy had just been standing, and he jumped back when he looked around. He saw 7 summoned beasts standing alongside the Pains, who were now farther away. The fact that the 2 Pains he had just destroyed were standing with the other 4, fully restored, was even more unsettling. Guy's posture widened once more. I guess this won't be that easy. His aura caused the ground around him to tremble. 7th gate, gate of shock. Open. There was a flurry of jutsu and weapons from every side as the Akatsuki poured into the village. As they proceeded, they handled the attacks deftly and effortlessly before splitting off into groups to start wreaking havoc in their own areas. Tsunade and Sakura met Deidara and Sasori as they made their way directly to the center of the village. Konan started using her paper bombs to cause extensive damage. She swept through the village, destroying block after block, causing entire buildings to collapse. With these, numerous ninja made fruitless attempts to attack her paper form. Following her assault, bodies were found all over the place. Hidan and Kakazu discovered that hundreds of ninja were all around them. At their head was Kakashi. From the roof of a nearby building, Zetsu observed thoughtfully, seemingly oblivious to the ninja in his immediate vicinity. He was surrounded by a dozen corpses while a group of scared ninja retreated a little. Naruto was caught up in a string of bad dreams. His friends were being killed, and his village was being destroyed. He was powerless to stop the Akatsuki from killing innocent villagers. He seemed to be hovering over Konoha, unable to descend to assist since they were exterminated. He kept seeing the faces of ninjas he knew but whose names he did not know. He saw the Konoha gates on the ground, smashed to pieces. He saw Guy fighting pain outside the gate. A shiver went down Naruto's spine as he studied the destruction. What is this?
That's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this great story. See you in the next one.